On August 14, 2021, Christopher Harvey dialed 911 from the home he shared with his ex-girlfriend, Rodrica Hill. He claimed that he just got home and found his girlfriend gravely injured, and that the back door of the home had been left open. The evidence, however, painted a very different picture. According to the evidence, Christopher Harvey was not happy with the breakup, and he was not happy that Rodrica started seeing someone else. The state eventually charged Christopher Harvey with Rodrica Hill's murder, claiming that he murdered the young mother due to jealousy. His interrogation has gained popularity due to his commitment to the story that someone else did it, although he admitted that he was mad at Rodrica because she had brought her new man to their home. So this is Christopher Harvey's trial for the murder of ex-girlfriend Rodrica Hill. Representing the state are prosecutors Brittany Fox and Andrea Diaz. Representing the defendant, Christopher Harvey, are Assistant Public Defenders Brooke Brewer, Amy Lim, and Dina Duncan. At his interrogation, Christopher Harvey seemed unhinged, and his defense story seemed implausible. Let's see if he has a better defense at trial, with the help of 3 members of the excellent local public defender's office.
All right, let's go on the record for Mr. Harvey. This is State of Florida versus Christopher Harvey, 2021 CF 2146. And counsel from both sides, same as yesterday, and Mr. Harvey is also present as well for the record. Anything we need to take up first?
Governor, there's one issue. It has to do with Mr. Harvey's attire. My investigator is not here this morning, but I was notified that different clothes were taken to the jail yesterday so that he wouldn't appear in front of the jury today at the same clothes. And I'm saying that my investigator is not here because there is a bit of confusion as to what happened, whether the clothes were sent back or whether he just wasn't transported with them. So I am going to request that we at least be allowed to change his shirt and tie.
I mean, how do you propose to do that with 9 minutes to go?
I have one coming down from the office.
So you're going to get that done in 9 minutes?
I would like to try.
Okay. Is there something different that should happen? You guess you don't really know what happened, so you got any input on that?
I don't know exactly, Your Honor, what did happen and what should happen, but I will figure that policy out today so that we don't have the same issue.
It appears not to be true.
So if you have it's kind of been down. Yeah,
Probably hard to find for sure.
yeah, the shirt we get accommodated. That's not too big a deal. That's not expensive stuff. Outside of that, it's really not. I mean, it's kind of I'm in the same outfit growing. Yeah. It won't. I was wondering if we had the jury. We don't know if we might just went down again. They're not going to have time to enjoy the donuts. They're not going to have time to enjoy their donuts. I like to enjoy them. I'm getting my lots of interruptions as well.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah. Tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Do you get any? You know what happened in jail? You don't know.
Like she described it, they didn't go back with him as far as I know. Scott was about to transfer to see what happened exactly. But if it went in his property back, it should stay in his property so that he could rest out.
You want to go history again, sure.
We'll find out what the disconnect was.
Judge, if I can approach with a copy of the witness and exhibit list.
Yes, please.
I also have a copy of the joint stipulations. There's just 2 of them, but I'll wait for Ms. Brewer to be done so she can take a look at the wording. If I could just do the test.
Yeah. While we're waiting on that, does the defendant want the instruction on the right to remain silent included in the preliminary instructions?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't require anybody invoking the rule yesterday.
We did not invoke the rule yesterday, and we've requested to invoke today.
Okay. Is there any witnesses? Are there any witnesses in the court?
Not for the state, Judge. I informed my first witness who's outside to assume the rule has been invoked and not using all the others.
Okay. Do you have any witnesses, Ms. Brewer?
Not today, Your
I meant in the courtroom.
Honor. No, Your Honor.
Okay. So I'll just rely on the attorneys then to instruct their witnesses on the rule witness sequestration.
I'll just plan on as soon as the jury comes in, we'll stop working.
I just, for everybody's situation, I turned those jury rail mics off and mine up. So,
Your Honor, if they're speaking as they turn up, it's not going to record them. Digital will not be able to hear them at all.
if I turn those off? Okay. Yeah. No, I'm just trying to make the acoustics better. Because the mics cut each other off.
They do.
So I was trying to avoid that. But. All right, so they'll need to be on.
Otherwise, they need to stop talking. until they get to a microphone.
We might think of it.
When they talk about, when they're in this, have you ever heard the
Oh, you're saying an attorney is walking around and stuff. I thought in case we had a comment from the jury, you need this.
that's why they're turned this way.
Oh,
So that
okay. So the answer is not more disciplined attorneys, just turn them on and we can't control it.
correct.
All right, so for the record, the defendant's back with a different shirt, but we're still waiting on the clerk. I hear the jury in there. Sounds like we have them all, but anything else we need to take up?
Yes, sir. I have a copy of the joint stipulations. Ms. Brewer has looked them over, and she's good with me providing it to the court.
All right, and that's, is that gonna be today, or you don't know?
My expectation is that it won't be until tomorrow for the first one with Dr. Clark, the medical examiner, and probably Thursday for the second one with Detective Gaines, depending on the time that we make. I did have a brief motion in limine prior to opening statements as it relates to the defense and some of the topics that were discussed with the jurors and jury selection, which I understand jury selection is really wide-ranging. I just want to ensure it doesn't get to that level for opening statements that would be a violation of the rules of procedure, as far as there were multiple questions yesterday geared towards, how did you feel if you were ever wrongfully accused? I'd be asking the court to instruct the defense not to ask the jury that. How would you feel if you were in his position? How would you feel if this was happening to you? I have reason to believe that that's happened in prior cases, and that's something that a bell can't be unrung. So I'd ask that they not do that in opening. Additionally, multiple times Ms. Lim called the defendant by his first name only yesterday, and I'd request that the defense speak of any adult, not just the defendant, by either first and last name or a title and a last name, just so that it's professional and clear for the jury who they're talking about.
Any comment on that, defense?
No.
All right, so I agree with both points. I noticed the first name basis there as well, so surnames only, please, unless you're going to use the full name. And then, yeah, conscious of community type arguments would also be improper from either side.
And then additionally, I'm sorry I left this out, they made multiple references to his life being at stake, his liberty being at stake. That's outside the province of the jury. That calls for them to consider the implications of their verdict of sentencing, which is also improper. I have a case cite if Your Honor requires it, but I would ask that they not be allowed to speak of that to the jury.
All right. Defense? Yeah.
Yeah, with regard to that, certainly I know,
Do you need a mic?
I certainly understand I would not be able to talk about, shackles or chains or potential punishments, but I do believe the case law is clear that I can use words such as liberty. That's the burden of proof. I do intend to use that word. I believe the law allows that.
The burden of proof has nothing to do with liberty. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. So if she's saying his life is at stake in this and his liberty is at stake in this, that's asking the jury, it's inflaming their emotions by thinking what will happen if they return a verdict of guilty.
You want me to look at that case then?
Yes, sir. The one most directly on point is Baker versus State, 578 Southern 2nd, 37, the 4th District Court of Appeal, 1991.
You think that's most on point?
Well, it talks directly about that the prosecutor in that case, after the defense spoke of.
So the improper prosecutor argument talking about?
I think it goes for both sides. I mean, if it's prejudicial and inflammatory for a prosecutor to say it, then it's prejudicial for a defense to say it. And that coupled with Ruiz versus State, and that's 743 Southern 2nd 1. It's the Florida Supreme Court, 1999. In that case, it...
Let me look at this one for a minute. Sorry. So I guess, Ms. Duncan, can you just put a little meat on those bones on what the proper argument is, then, other than the word liberty? Can you just help me understand what the proper argument is using the word liberty? You said I can use the word liberty, but I guess I just don't understand what the argument is that would be proper, focusing on the jury's task and not on outside concerns like the criminal justice system at large or whatever else, I guess.
Sure. So I think specifically in opening statements, I intend to talk about the burden of proof and how that differs depending on the nature of the case. And I typically do say something along the lines of, in a criminal case, when liberty is at interest, the burden is the highest at law, beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. And I don't believe that is going to inflame the jury. I believe that is factual.
State your response to that. It's the same.
It is. I mean, I would also say to Leggett versus State, it's 718 Southern 2nd 878 from the 4th DCA 1998.
878?
8.
Yeah.
718 Southern 2nd 878.
What aspect?
To insinuate penalties into argument for either prosecution or defense is to suggest an improper basis for the jury's decision. Jury should decide criminal case in accordance with law and evidence and disregard consequences of its verdict. So by suggesting that there is some form of incarcerated sanction when we're in a non-capital case and the jury's not being asked to determine a sentence, it's improper to make any type of argument from the prosecution or the defense that would insinuate penalties into it. By saying someone's liberty is at stake, that's insinuating penalties into an argument.
I don't think Ms. Duncan's proposed argument bothers me that much, so to that extent, I'll allow it. Other than that, I think Ms. Fox has the better of the argument. Anything else before we bring the jury in?
No, sir. Nothing from the state.
Defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, let's bring it in. Sorry, Ms. Brewer, you said yes to right to remain silent, correct? Yes. Okay, I just didn't recall. Thanks. All right, please be seated. Well, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of State of Florida versus Christopher Harvey. This is a criminal case. Mr. Harvey is charged with first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence. The definitions of those alleged crimes will be explained to you later. The state's charging document, which is called an indictment, is not evidence and is not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. Now, it's going to be my responsibility to explain the law to you. And it's going to be your solemn responsibility to determine if the state proved its accusation beyond a reasonable doubt against Mr. Harvey in accordance with the law that I will provide to you. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined, and they do not overlap. That is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it would be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. So at the beginning of the trial, the attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you're not to consider it as such. Following opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits may also be presented as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, the court will give you instructions on the law. The attorneys will then have their opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following closing arguments by the attorneys, the court will conclude with the final instructions. After the final instructions are given, the alternate juror will be released, if not utilized up to that point, and you will then retire to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion on the merits of the case until you have heard all the evidence, the argument of the lawyers, the instructions on the law by myself. Until that time, you should not discuss the case among yourselves. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence and the law. I now instruct you again not to communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, about this case. You cannot do any research about the case or look up any information about the case. If you become aware of any violation of any of these rules at all, please notify the bailiff. During the course of the trial, the court will take recesses, and you will be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During these recesses, you must not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about this case, tell him or her that you are on the jury trying this case and ask them to stop. If he or she persists, leave that person at once and immediately report the matter to the bailiff, who will then advise me. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or other types of electronic devices must be turned off while you're in the courtroom. Turned off means that they're actually off and not in silent or vibrating mode. You may use these devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use a cell phone or electronic device to find out any information about the case or communicate with anyone about the case or the people involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of these proceedings or of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure your phone or electronic device is turned off. At the end of the case, while you're deliberating, you cannot have in the jury room any cell phone or electronic device or computers or anything else. If someone needs to contact you in an emergency, the court can receive messages and deliver them to you without delay, and a contact phone number will be provided to you for that purpose. This case must be tried by you only on the evidence presented during the trial in your presence and in the presence of the defendant, the parties, and the judge. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This applies whether you're in the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the trial. Jurors must not have discussion of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. So do not let even your closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress again, just as you must not talk about this case face-to-face, you must not talk about this case using an electronic device. Now, we spoke about this yesterday, but I'm going to reiterate again here the reasons for these rules. These rules are imposed because jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence presented in the courtroom. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, I as a trial judge have no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper and relevant to the case, and the parties likewise have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. That's contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to challenge the evidence being presented against it and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity that our judicial system promises. So any juror who violates these restrictions jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result. That would require the entire trial process to start over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. So if you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court, face sanctions such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of the defendant to prove his innocence, and from the exercise of the defendant's right to remain silent. A jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. Now, the attorneys are trained in the rules of trial procedure and evidence, and it's their duty to make all objections that they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had he or she been permitted to answer. During the trial, it may be necessary to confer with the attorneys out of your presence, or out of your hearing rather, to discuss matters that require consideration by me alone. You saw that happen yesterday. It's impossible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last, but when they do occur, they will be conducted so as to consume as little of your time as is necessary for fair and orderly trial in this case. So note taking, if you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, no one's required to take notes. That's left up to each juror individually. You've been provided with a notepad and pen, which I see you found. For your use, if you want to take any notes you do take are for your personal use. I would ask during the trial that you not take them with you from the courtroom. So whenever you take a recess, just take your notes, put them face down on your chair there, and then they'll be right. You're going to be in the same seat for the rest of the trial. So they'll be there when you get back. The bailiffs have control of the courtroom during recesses, so nobody's going over to the jury box to get a gander at your notes. Likewise, after you've completed your deliberations, the bailiff's going to go into the jury room collecting your notes and destroy them before anybody really has a chance to read them. No one's ever going to read your notes. The caveats to note-taking, though, is if you do become involved, or if you do take notes, don't become so involved in the note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. And also, again, notes are to be used only as aids to your memory. So at this time, the attorneys may, if they choose, present their opening statements. Again, I caution you that what the attorneys say are not to be accepted by you as evidence. However, the opening statements are intended to help you understand the evidence that will be presented, so I ask that you give them close attention. State, you may give your opening now.
Judge, counsel, good morning, everybody again.
Again, my name is Brittany Fox. I represent the people of the state of Florida in this case, along with Assistant State Attorney Andrea Diaz. You're probably going to hear both myself and the defense thank you. We know you didn't have a choice to come back here today, but we thank you nonetheless. It's an important matter, and we really couldn't do our jobs without people willing to do their civic duty and take that juror's oath and come in for trials like this, so thank you. Over the course of this week, you're going to hear about a woman named Rodrica Hill. She was 31 years old, and you're going to hear about her last day on this earth, which was on August 14th of 2021. And one thing I want to point out before I get too much into what I expect the evidence to see is the judge has instructed you what I say, what the defense says, isn't evidence. Evidence comes from the witness stands and the exhibits that are entered. Our role is to ask questions, try to give you an idea of where we think the evidence will go, but ultimately it's the physical and testimonial evidence that you hear, not anything that I say or anything the defense says. And the purpose of opening statements is really to kind of give you a roadmap for the course of how I believe the evidence is going to unfold over the next few days. This is a case that has a lot of witnesses. It's got several different scenes, and so it's going to take several days for you to get the full picture of all of the evidence of everything that happened. So I'm going to ask you to keep an open mind. Know that there's a lot of legal, technical things I've got to do for some things involving chain of custody that might be frustrating, that we don't just give you all the evidence and have the lead investigator come up first witness and tell you everything. There's some steps that I have to take before that. So I ask for your patience. And today you're going to hear from some of the first responding officers that arrived to 2954 Cathedral Drive here in Tallahassee, Florida on August 14th of 2021. They responded to a 911 call that a woman had been possibly shot at the residence. And I expect you're going to hear that 911 call. It was made by the defendant at around 1 o'clock that day, that afternoon. You'll hear from Deputy Cannon today. He was the first Leon County Sheriff's Office deputy on scene. You'll also hear the 911 call that the defendant made, talking about how he believes his wife was shot in the house. But I'd ask you to listen to the call and ask yourself if it's consistent with someone who just stumbled upon their significant other of 10, 11 years lying deceased, face down, in their home. Deputy Cannon arrives, he enters the residence, and he sees a really horrific scene. There's a chair that's fallen over, there's a pool of blood and potentially what would later be determined as teeth fragments. There's blood on the walls, and you'll see photos later of the house and how it's set up. But as you walk in through the back door, you walk into the kitchen area. There's a little hallway down to the left that leads to the front door in the living room. It's kind of an open concept setup. And at the base of the front door, in the entryway area, is Miss Rodrica Hill. She is cold to the touch. And you'll hear later that signifies that someone has been deceased for some time. There's a lot of blood. Deputy Cannon can't tell exactly where she was shot due to the position that she's in, and you'll see that and why. So essentially, Deputy Cannon's role is to secure the scene, make sure there's no danger to anyone. Miss Hill is pronounced deceased at the scene. He checks the rooms, no one else is there, no one's in the house, and they wait for crime scene to get there, to process the scene. And you'll hear later this morning from Sergeant Christopher Smith. He's one of the crime scene detectives at LCSO, and he was responsible for processing the scene. He'll walk you through the scene photos. A couple things to note. There was a Ring doorbell on the front door, and it was missing a battery, and that'll become relevant later. So there was also a neighbor that had a surveillance camera facing towards Miss Hill's home, and they were able to obtain some surveillance video from that residence, and I think you'll hear from that neighbor. Her name's Miss Williams later on today. And investigators were able to review that footage and see cars that were consistent with Miss Hill's car. She drives a white Mazda sedan. And Mr. Harvey's truck, he drives a white dually pickup truck, coming and going from the residence, but no other cars, no other people. The surveillance is very dark. It's the wee hours of the morning. So you can see shapes, you can see shadows, but it's not going to be HD high-def close-ups of anyone's face or what they're doing, just because of the angle that the camera sits at and the darkness that was there. You're going to hear throughout the course of this trial, including today, about the circumstances of Ms. Hill and Mr. Harvey's relationship. You'll hear today from Miss Veronica Henry, who was Ms. Hill's best friend. And she'll talk to you about how Ms. Hill and the defendant have been together for 10 or 11 years. You know, they considered themselves married. They weren't legally married, but they would call each other husband and wife. But that the relationship was rocky. And Ms. Hill was trying to get out of it. You'll hear that they weren't together at the time of August 14th, 2021. They were still living together, but they were separated. So they were separated romantically, but living together physically. And that was at Ms. Hill's wanting. You're going to see later on that investigators spoke with several individuals, that they obtained Mr. Harvey's 2 cell phones from him on scene that afternoon. And those were sent off to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to do some forensics on it. And you'll hear, I think, tomorrow from Keith Williamson at FDLE, who will talk to you about their process. It's called a cell write extraction. Really, it's a computer equipment software that you can plug into a phone, and it'll spit out a report with everything that can be extracted from that phone. So text messages, call logs, device application usage. It doesn't necessarily get everything off the phone. It kind of depends on the make and model of the phone. He'll talk you through that. But you will see several cell write reports that include from the defendant's phone text messages with Ms. Hill from August 13th leading up to August 14th in the early hours of the morning. And in those texts, you'll see it starts off as any kind of couple living together, various small talk earlier in the day, but it takes a turn later that evening. Mr. Harvey has a tracker on Ms. Hill's vehicle, and you'll see that tracker. It was recovered out of his pickup truck when police responded later in the afternoon on the 14th. You'll see the tracker records that the police obtained from the tracker company. And we can kind of track Ms. Hill's movements through those records through August 13th into the 14th. But he's had this tracker on her car for months, since March or April. And you'll see some of the text from that night. He's saying, "Oh, I see you're at the sleep-in." And she's kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I've got a friend that works there. She told me." Later in the night, Miss Hill is telling him, "I'm hurting. I'm in a relationship that I'm not happy with." Mr. Harvey, though, doesn't take that for an answer. "Please call me. Please call me. We can work this out. Call me." You'll see later on a flurry of calls from Mr. Harvey's phone numbers to Miss Hill's phone number, hundreds of calls. Some of them *67, blocking his number so that he can speak to her. Some connect to her, and you'll see the length of the calls. Some don't. He then texts her at about 1 a.m., "Hope it's good because I'm outside." And you'll see from Miss Hill's vehicle tracker records that she's at a Days Inn hotel off Appalachia Parkway. And she's meeting with a friend of hers named Jermel Crumby. And I expect you'll also hear from Mr. Crumby later on this week. They're friends from high school. They've had some romantic relations in the past. It was kind of also on and off again casual. But on that night, when they were at the Days Inn, Mr. Harvey shows up. And he's banging on doors. He's looking for her. And she's scared. And Miss Henry, her best friend, is on the phone with her at the time. And she'll talk to you about how her voice sounded, what she could hear on the other end of the phone, and how concerned she was for her friend. This wasn't like any other night. It wasn't like any other fight. You'll see from the text messages on the defendant's phone that Miss Hill tells him, this is where I draw the line. I'm leaving. And that's when the defendant really falls apart, because he's losing that control that he so desperately clings to. He tells her he doesn't have anything to lose anymore. He's already lost everything. Everything he's worked for is gone. She tells him, you know, I feel free. I'm about to pack. I'm about to leave. And he tells her nothing matters anymore. He's calling her and calling her and calling her. And some of these calls are like 20 minutes long. And at one point she tells him, stop calling me with the threats. He tells her at 3:41 a.m. that the grass ain't always greener. And you'll see from the neighbor's surveillance video that a truck like his, consistent with his truck, pulls in to the residence around 5 a.m., just before 5 a.m. Now, I mentioned a Ring camera. There is one at Miss Hill's house on the front door. And investigators were able to obtain videos, but they had to go to Ring itself. So Ring will upload to the cloud. Investigators does a search warrant to the cloud, gets the videos that had been uploaded already. I mentioned earlier that Sergeant Smith saw the Ring battery on the front door, but it was, the Ring camera on the front door, but it was missing the battery. Well, they find the battery. And they find it with the help of a witness. His name's Jerry Moore. You'll hear from him today. He considers himself the defendant's uncle. They're not blood related, but they're friends, and that's what their names for each other were. So he considers the defendant nephew. The defendant called him uncle. And Mr. Moore is with Mr. Harvey at around 1 p.m. on August 14th when the police arrive. And Mr. Moore will tell you that he had spoken with Mr. Harvey the night prior, that Mr. Harvey made some statements to him along the lines of being angry and upset with someone. He wasn't sure who. He was aware of the relationship between Mr. Harvey and Miss Hill, but it's not something he wanted to, that was his business. He wasn't going to get into it. But you'll see that there's several phone calls, and Mr. Harvey tells Mr. Moore, I'm going to kill her. And at around 5:10 a.m., there's a call between Mr. Harvey and Mr. Moore, and you'll see that in phone records, because the police got all the phone records from everybody involved in this case. There's a call, and Mr. Moore says, Mr. Harvey answers the phone. He's like, what's going on? What are you doing? And here's a gun rack. And Mr. Moore's scared. He doesn't know what's going on. He hangs up. And that maybe 20, 30 minutes later, Mr. Harvey calls him back and says, I did it. I killed her. Mr. Harvey drives back to Botany Place. That's where Mr. Moore lives. It's a separate address from Cathedral. And Mr. Moore sees a fire in the backyard, in their little garden area, and he doesn't really know what to make of it. They don't really usually have fires out there, but it's like 5:36 in the morning, so he goes back to sleep. He's sleeping on the couch. Later that afternoon, Mr. Harvey, according to Mr. Moore, says his goodbyes and asks Mr. Moore to come with him so that he can turn himself in. So Mr. Moore comes with him, he gets in the truck, but instead of going to the sheriff's office, they go to the Cathedral Drive home. And while they're in the driveway, Mr. Moore will tell you that, Mr. Harvey again told him, "I killed her." So police speak with Mr. Moore. He gives them access to his phone. They take some photographs to corroborate those calls that he says happened. And they go to Botany Place, the address, where they see a burn pit. In the burn pit, there's a ring battery located. There's a ring manual that's burned and in pieces. There's some metal electronic components that are so badly burned you can't figure out what they are. And in the wood line behind the house are 3 guns in a bag. 2 are 9mm, and 1 is a revolver. I think it's a 44, or it's not a 9mm. The murder weapon in this case that police were looking for was a 9mm, and they knew that based on Miss Hill's injuries because she was taken to the morgue where an autopsy was performed. And she was shot between 3 and 4 times. And you'll hear from Dr. Clark about why he is couching it as between 3 and 4, because 1 either could be a whole separate gunshot or it could be an exit and then a re-entry. And so he'll explain that to you in her injuries, but she was shot with a 9mm. A 9mm projectile was recovered from her cheek. There were some lead fragments recovered from the back of her head. And those were all sent off to FDLE, to firearms, along with the firearms that were located, the 2 9mm firearms in the wood line. And you'll hear from William Black. He's with FDLE. He'll talk to you about how he was able to identify the Sig Sauer 9mm as being the gun that fired the projectile that was later located and recovered from Miss Hill's cheek. The other 9mm, the brand was a Lorsen. It didn't function properly with the magazine that was provided. And it also wasn't the gun that fired the shot to Miss Hill's cheek. The other projectile fragments that were recovered weren't of any value because they were so fragmented, they couldn't make a comparison. You'll also hear from FDLE from a DNA analyst later on this week named Maria Hyatt. And she'll talk to you about some items of evidence that she processed, including the guns, where Mr. Harvey's DNA, along with Miss Hill's, was located on the murder weapon, the Sig 9mm. You'll hear that you'll hear that Sergeant Smith also recovered in that same botany area out of a trash can a black t-shirt. And that on that black t-shirt was Miss Hill's blood, along with Mr. Harvey's DNA. She ran the items that were sent to her against Mr. Moore's DNA, because he also provided a buccal swab, it's a cheek swab, for a DNA sample, and Mr. Moore was excluded from the items. At the end of the trial, you're going to hear from Sergeant Christopher Corbett, and he was working on this case. He works at TPD, but he helps out other agencies with cell phone analysis and mapping. And you're going to hear from him and see how those cell phone records that police obtained put Mr. Harvey at the scene at the time we think the murder occurred, how they exclude Mr. Moore, how they exclude Mr. Crumby. And you'll see it in relation to Miss Hill's records as well. Miss Hill fought for her life that night, and I expect that's going to come through in the testimony as well as the photographs. She was trying to escape Mr. Harvey from the relationship, from him controlling her, and he couldn't handle it. And so he went into the home that they shared, and I expect you'll see through the trail of the blood all culminating to her where she was found, that he shoots her in the back of the shoulder. It goes through her face, into her cheek, Her teeth are blown out, blood everywhere on the floor. She tries to run. She tries to get away. Despite what I anticipate Dr. Clark explaining to you, immense pain. If you continue around towards the door, more blood splatter. And that wasn't enough for Mr. Harvey, because she was still breathing, she was still fighting, and she was running for the door trying to get away from him. So he shot her again in the back of the head. He executed Miss Hill. She never made it out that door. The defendant's charged with 2 counts. One is first-degree murder, premeditated. We talked about that yesterday. The judge is going to give you a whole packet of jury instructions at the end of this case that explain the law and the elements. This is my burden. It's a burden that I accept, and I believe by the end of this case, you will have no reasonable doubts that the one person, the only person who did this, who could be angry enough to do something so horrifying when he was losing all control, was this man, Christopher Harvey. And that afterwards, after he killed his partner 11 years in cold blood, he still had the wherewithal to get rid of the evidence, or at least try. Takes the ring battery out, tries to burn it, tosses the guns in the woods, tosses his bloody shirt with her blood, by the way, it's not his blood. He didn't have any injuries. Tosses that in a trash can, and tries to set fire to everything else. And that's where the tampering with evidence charge comes in. If you remove something from a crime scene to impair its availability from law enforcement, that's tampering with physical evidence, and that's what he did. And why would you do that? To try to cover your tracks. At the end of this trial, and it will be a long week, so I appreciate you guys keeping the patience and the focus. I'll get back up here. I'll have the opportunity to talk to you in closing arguments. I'll go first and I'll go last, and that's because I have the burden of proof as the state of Florida. And we'll go through the jury instructions and we'll talk about everything that you will have heard by then, all the evidence that's been admitted, and I'll ask you to return a verdict of guilty as to both counts. Because this was a premeditated murder. He did tamper with the evidence, but he got caught. He got caught. And the law now holds him accountable for his actions and the loss of a bright 31-year-old's life. Thank you.
Morning. You know, generally, when I stand up for opening statements, I know exactly what I'm going to say. But this is a complicated case. And so I have made notes. There are a lot of names. There's a lot of locations. And so I want to just make sure that I cover what I want to talk with you guys about. So you'll see me refer to those. But I do want to echo what the state told you, right? What she just said, it's not evidence. It's what she hopes to be able to prove to you at the end of this week. And she's not going to be able to do that. She's not going to be able to prove those things to you because there is simply a lack of evidence against Chris Harvey, and there was an incredibly sloppy police investigation in this case. Now, I want to start by talking about Christopher Harvey and Rodrica Hill. They had been together for a number of years, about 11, and they lived together off and on, but they did have an open relationship. So both Chris Harvey and Rodrica Hill saw other people. They would break up, they would get back together, sometimes stay apart from the joint house. And on August 13th of 2021, Christopher Harvey ran into a friend at a convenience store, Mr. Gary Knight. I expect that you'll hear him testify that he ran into Chris and that he invited Mr. Harvey back to the Days Inn on Appalachia Parkway to hang out with him that night. Now, Christopher Harvey met up with his friend Gary Knight at that Days Inn. They were hanging out and they were drinking, and they ran in. Christopher Harvey did run into Rodrica Hill, who, as you heard, was there at the Days Inn with her friend Jermel Crumby. Now, Rodrica and Jermel had dated in the past. They had a room together that night. Certainly, Christopher Harvey and Rodrica Hill argued after encountering each other there at the Days Inn. And after arguing with Christopher, Rodrica Hill and Jermel Crumby left the Days Inn, ultimately making their way back to Rodrica Hill's home. You're actually going to hear from officers with the Tallahassee Police Department who encountered Chris Harvey and Gary Knight at that Days Inn. You're going to hear from them that Chris was calm, that Mr. Harvey was cooperative, and that when the officers left the Days Inn, they left Christopher Harvey and Gary Knight there at the Days Inn. And you're going to hear from the cell phone records that Christopher Harvey stayed there at the Days Inn for several hours. Now, at some point, the decision was made through communication with Miss Rodrica Hill that Christopher should go to his house, that he should get some items to spend the night elsewhere. So Chris Harvey goes to his house, and he gets some items, and he encounters Rodrica Hill, and he hears a man in his home. Now, he left the home that he shared with Rodrica Hill, and he went to his uncle's home, which you're going to learn is Kendall Harvey. And Kendall Harvey has a roommate named Jerry Moore. Now, Christopher Harvey goes back to that home, and he encounters Jerry Moore. He talks to Mr. Moore, and he goes to sleep. The next day, when Christopher Harvey wakes up, he asks Mr. Moore to ride with him back to the house that he shares with Rodrica Hill in case her male friend is still there. Now, when they get back to that house, Christopher Harvey finds Rodrica Hill. He immediately calls 911. And one of the first officers on scene encounters Jerry Moore. You're going to hear from that officer that he knew Jerry Moore. He had worked with him in the past. And that officer is going to tell you that shortly after speaking to Jerry Moore, kind of just talking about where they used to work, who's been fired, who's still there, catching up, Jerry Moore tells him, I'm not going to prison. I didn't do anything wrong. He confessed. Chris Harvey confessed. And from that moment, right, that one conversation, that sealed it for the Tallahassee Police Department. And how do we know that? We know that they decided right then that Christopher Harvey was guilty because of every action they took afterwards. Now, officers took photographs, right, of boot prints in the yard and throughout the home of Rodrica Hill and Christopher Harvey. They didn't compare them to Christopher Harvey's shoes. They didn't compare them to Jermel Crumby's shoes. They didn't compare them to Jerry Moore's shoes. They didn't even compare them to the officers who had walked around in the scene. They took photographs of tire marks in the yard. They don't compare those to Rodrica Hill's car. They don't compare those to Christopher Harvey's truck. They certainly don't compare them to Jermel Crumby's car. Officers took swabs, right, throughout the home, things that they identified as blood, or they took swabs and door handles. They did nothing with those swabs. They took no further steps to process them, determine who had opened and closed those doors, whose blood that might be. Christopher Harvey First, officers knew that Rodrica Hill had been at the Days Inn with Jermel Crumby. They knew that she had a room with him, that she planned to spend the night with him. And officers knew that Christopher Harvey had heard a man's voice in his house. They did not process the bedroom in that home. They didn't process for bodily fluids. They didn't look for condoms. And in fact, when Rodrica Hill underwent her autopsy, they did a sexual assault kit. And then they chose not to process that sexual assault kit. They did nothing except for to continually confirm the bias in the split-second decision that Christopher Harvey had murdered Rodrica Hill. Now, there were swabs taken from Rodrica Hill's car, from her purse, from the door handles of the car. They did nothing with those. You heard that Christopher Harvey has 2 phones. Rodrica Hill also had 2 phones. And what you're going to hear is that officers took custody of 1 of those phones and processed 1 of those phones. And so they have no way of knowing any conversation that Rodrica Hill might have had with Jerry Moore, that she might have had with Jermel Crumby, that she might have had with any other man or woman, because they only processed the 1 phone. I want you to pay careful attention to the evidence that you hear from Jerry Moore. His story just gets a little bit better every time he tells it. It gets a little bit different depending on who he's talking to. And the burn kit that the state referenced that's discovered at the home where Jerry Moore lives, he never told officers about that. It didn't occur to him that he had seen a fire until a day later. And then when officers discover that fire, you're going to hear that it's still smoldering. And who's been in custody at that point for more than 7 hours? Christopher Harvey. Now, I told you that law enforcement, they had a bias and they had a really easy answer, and that they continued to evaluate evidence and certainly disregard evidence in a way that would confirm their bias. And that simply cannot be enough. We talked about this in jury selection, but in civil cases where the issue is money, the burden is a preponderance of the evidence. And in family law, where someone's child can be taken away permanently, the burden is a little bit higher. It's a clear and convincing standard. But here, in a criminal courtroom where liberty is at interest, the burden is the highest at law, beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. And the other thing that we talked about in jury selection is that we are not investigators. You can, you will, you might have questions. You certainly will have questions about what happened. But you can't look to us for those answers. You agreed that you wouldn't, and the law requires that you don't. We will not be able to tell you what happened to Rodrica Hill, but the state won't either. So I encourage you to listen to the evidence that is presented, and then you, as each individual juror, get to decide what weight that you give the testimony of the witnesses, who you find credible, and you get to evaluate not only the evidence presented, but the lack of evidence. And after doing that, I am confident that you will return the only verdict, the only lawful verdict, and that would be a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Yes, sir. State calls Deputy Jeffrey Cannon. I have the version.
Morning, sir. If you could come forward, get to where you can see our clerk, raise your right hand to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, just have a seat there. State when you're ready.
Morning. Could you please state and spell your name and introduce yourself to the jury?
My first name is Jeffrey, Geoffrey. Last name is Cannon, Cannon.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed as a deputy sheriff for the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been doing that?
A little over 8 years.
What roles have you had within LCSO?
I've been assigned to uniform patrol for 8 years.
Were you assigned to a particular section of town or shift?
We kind of rotate depending.
Okay. Well, let me turn your attention to August 14th of 2021. What section and shift were you working then?
I was on day shift, alpha rotation. I don't exactly remember what sector I was in. It was the south zone.
Okay. And were you dispatched to a call at 2954 Cathedral Drive?
Yes.
Is that in Leon County?
Yes.
And what did you know at the time you were dispatched?
I think the original call notes just indicated a female had been shot.
When you arrive to 2954 Cathedral, are you the first on scene?
Yes.
Law enforcement, all right. Who do you initially make contact with when you arrive?
There were two black males. They were in the, I guess, really in the yard. Yeah.
Okay. And were they later identified?
Yes.
Who were they?
The first gentleman that was kind of by the road, I believe his name was Jerry, and then he was a taller, younger gentleman. His name was Christopher Harvey.
Right. And what actions did you take when you arrived?
Upon my arrival and made contact, I was actually flagged down because our mapping system didn't actually map correctly. I was flagged down at the yard. Basically walked in and, given the call notes, I walked into the yard. I was putting on gloves at the time. I met up with Mr. Harvey, and we proceeded to the back of the residence.
All right. Do you remember approximately what time you arrived?
I don't.
Would it be on your body camera video?
It should be.
Okay. You said you made your way to the back of the residence. Why not go through the front door?
I honestly don't know. That was just where Mr. Harvey led me.
Right. Was there a separate entrance at the back of the house?
Yes. There was a wooden landing that went up to kind of a small deck area that went into the back.
All right. And did you enter the house?
Yes.
Okay. What did you see?
When you first enter through the back of there, it's about the halfway point of the house. It's a laundry room. So when you walk in, there's a washer and dryer on your left, and down at the end of the hallway to the right, it opens up into the house.
All right. And as you made your way into the house, did you find anything?
Initially in the laundry room, no. When I walked in, Mr. Harvey and a dog walked in, and I was trying to get them out because the dog kept running into the house. So once I got those out, I was able to look into the actual room.
All right. And what did you see?
So it opens up into kind of a dining room, and there was a table, and on the left side of when you're looking at it, on the left side, there was a chair that was knocked over. So when you proceed in through there, you go. There's a kitchen area that's kind of behind that. And there's a long, high top island, and right in front of that was a large pool of blood.
All right. Did you continue on? I mean, I guess at this point in time, what's your role in assessing this scene?
Basically, just seeing if anybody is inside, if anybody is injured, kind of what exactly we have, given the call notes.
Okay. And did you find anyone injured inside?
I did. When you proceed to the left of that door, when you walk around, there is basically a couch area, living room, and to the left of that would be the front door. So I guess when you come down and take a right towards the front door, the victim was right there in front of the door.
Can you describe to the jury how you found her? Like what position she was in?
Seemed to be kind of kneeling or slumped over. And I couldn't really tell if she was leaned up against the door, but she was leaning forward.
Was the front door open or closed?
It seemed to be cracked. I couldn't tell if it was cracked or if it was just a gap in the door.
All right. Did you do anything? Did you touch anything in any way?
I took my right hand and I grabbed her right shoulder, and I could tell at that point she was cold and stiff.
All right. You received training on that?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury what kind of training you received?
Having worked a number of deaths, you can kind of assume at that point if somebody is cold and stiff that they have been deceased for a significant amount of time. I didn't feel at that point searching for a pulse would be necessary.
You pronounced her deceased at the scene?
Correct.
Other than feeling the victim, did you touch anything else in that area? Like you mentioned the door may have been cracked. Did you do anything to it?
No.
Okay. So you weren't sure if the door if it just looked like it was open or if it was closed?
Correct.
All right. Is that the role of a crime scene investigator who comes in later to take all photos and examine the scene? All right. At that point in time, after you determine that she's deceased, and well, let me ask you this, were you able to tell if she had any apparent injuries?
I couldn't tell of any apparent injuries. There was lots of amount of blood in her hair and kind of around her body.
Okay. So after that, what did you do?
I notified dispatch and my supervisor of what I had, and I backed out into the lunchroom.
Okay. Did you also clear the residence?
I waited until my supervisor got on scene, and then we went through the residence and cleared to make sure nobody else was inside.
Okay. And can you explain to the jury what clearing a residence? You just did, but what do you do exactly, when you're doing that?
Usually our guns are drawn. We go methodically through each of the rooms and make sure that there's nobody else inside.
Okay. Aside from if a door is closed, opening it, so I'm assuming you had to open maybe some bedroom doors or something like that?
Yes, we try to check every door, even closets. I believe I checked the pantry as well, bathrooms. You go behind shower curtains, stuff like that.
Okay. Do you otherwise do anything else with the scene or disturb it in any way?
No.
Did you find anybody else inside?
No.
Did you find any other areas inside the house with blood evidence?
There was some blood on the wall leading down towards the front door, and there was 2 drops of blood on the carpet leading out of the back door where the laundry room was.
Anything, signs of a struggle or blood in any of the bedrooms or bathrooms?
Inside what I think was the master bedroom, it looked like a lot of the drawers had been pulled out. Other than that, I couldn't see anything obvious.
And did you do a thorough search to see if anything had been taken or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Your primary role was just scene security and safety.
Correct.
Actually. You mentioned that you had been dispatched to the scene. Are you familiar with the Consolidated Dispatch Agency?
Yes.
And is that essentially the 911 call system that we have?
Correct.
So if someone calls 911, is it recorded?
Should be.
And are those notes, the call taker passes off notes of what the person is saying to you guys on your system?
Yes, they try to type in as best they can.
Okay. And that's how you get the information, possible woman shot at the residence.
Correct.
All right. And you said Mr. Harvey was the 911 caller in this case?
I don't know who the caller was.
Okay. Judge, at this point I would move what I have marked as State's Exhibit 1 into evidence. It's the 911 call.
Objection.
Objection. Objection.
Based on
Lack of foundation. Was it done off in stage?
Admission by a party opponent.
it's overruled. Admitted.
What's the address of your emergency? And what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I just got home and my old lady has been shot.
Okay, 2954?
Cathedral Drive. Get here.
Okay,
on Cathedral Drive.
I got 2954.
Cathedral Drive.
Okay, and what is that off of?
Off Orange Avenue.
It's off of Orange Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes, off of Orange.
okay, and what is your name?
My name is Chris.
Okay, what is your phone number, Chris? Okay. And can you tell me exactly what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I just got home.
I understand, but can you tell me what you see?
I just see blood.
Okay.
My dog is running loose.
Okay, I'm not worried about the dog. Is she alive? Is she awake?
I don't know. Seems like she breathe. I don't know.
Okay, can you go check and...
I need to touch. Maybe I could just...
Okay, can you go check on her and tell me?
Okay.
Go check her and tell me what you see.
Okay. I see the front door open and she's kind of lean.
She's kind of what, sir?
She's lean. Baby. She's not moving. Baby. She's not moving.
Okay, what I'm going to do is get help on the way. I'm going to ask some questions. Okay, just answer them the best that you can. I'm going to get help for you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, would you tell me what Cathedral is off of?
Off Orange Avenue.
Orange? Okay.
Yes.
Where's the weapon at?
I don't see one.
You don't see the weapon?
I don't see nothing.
Okay, we've got help coming to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just stay on the phone with me, okay?
Okay. Because the back door is open. We never lock the back door. The back door is always unlocked. We always need the back door.
Okay, it's not okay.
The front door is partially open.
Will, hand me procure medical. There's not one back here. Medical right there. No, the green one. Thank you. Okay, is she breathing?
I can't tell. I don't know.
Okay, what I want you to do is go next to her and see if you see her breathing. Check her chest, and I want you to see if she's breathing.
How do you do that? What do I do?
Okay, look and see if you see her chest rise and fall.
Yes, ma'am. Very faintly. She's moving very faintly.
Okay, so she's not breathing?
I don't know it.
Okay.
She's moving faintly. I don't know.
It's very faint? Okay.
Also, when you come down, you see your eyes, you can make a left, you can right, so there's a east side.
Okay. Okay. What I want you to do you think she's beyond any help?
I don't fucking know. I don't know.
Okay.
I just got on. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to think like that. I don't freaking know. I just
well, we've got help coming.
I don't freaking know.
Okay.
I just want to make it. I don't fucking know.
Okay, I understand that. I know. And we've got everybody coming to you, okay? Okay. Where is she bleeding from?
I don't see no blood. I see blood on the wall. I don't see her bleeding at all.
Okay.
In my house, it looks like it's been a struggle in here. That's what it looks like. It looks like it's been a struggle in here. The drawers are pulled out. Like our dresser drawers and stuff are pulled out. The file cabinet are pulled out. I don't know.
Okay. Is there more than one wound?
I do not know.
Okay. And you don't know when this happened?
No, ma'am, because last night she was supposed to have been moving out, and her and a guy friend or something was supposed to be moving out. I stayed with my uncle, and she hadn't called me, so I had been calling and trying to text her. She didn't call and text me, so I come to the house, and this is what I find. My whole closet has been ramshacked. Everything has gone. I have been going through all our stuff.
So you were gone last night?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I was at the university, not the university, the motel on.
Okay, I want you to tell me your address one more time. Tell me again.
2954 Cathedral Drive.
2954. Okay. Can you describe the house?
This is a trailer. I hear somebody.
Okay. Tell me what your house looks like.
I hear him.
I know.
By the road. I hear him.
Tell me what it looks like, though.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. They hear.
Okay, callers outside.
Yes, okay, they hear. Come on, here.
All right, go ahead and talk to them.
Deputy Cannon, you mentioned previously that you had a body-worn camera and that it has a timestamp on it.
Should have one, yes.
Have you had a chance to review your body-worn camera from your initial response in this case?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of, and I'm just going to play the first few minutes of it, of your response and your sweeping the scene? I would move States 2 into evidence.
States 2 is admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
You said after you had backup arrive, you went through and did a full sweep of the house where you looked at every room for...
Yes.
How we see in the video, is that you locating Miss Hill for the first time?
Correct.
Did it appear to you as if anyone had tried to give her like medical intervention or turn her over to see if she was breathing?
No.
Right. Any indication that anyone had tried to give her CPR or anything like that?
No.
Was she breathing when you found her?
No.
And you mentioned that she was cold to the touch.
Correct.
You didn't even check for a pulse?
No.
Hadn't been breathing for some time?
Correct.
While you were on the scene with Mr. Christopher Harvey, can you describe his demeanor?
He's a little bit frantic, kind of figuring out everything. He was on his phone a lot. He mentioned earlier that was his fiance, but he to me did not seem as upset as.
Sustain. Move on from that.
Sure. Did he show any type of emotions like crying?
No.
Was he, screaming out loud for the loss of a loved one?
No.
Was he pretty, would you consider him to be kind of even keel?
Objection.
Overrule. Go ahead.
Yes.
Do you see Mr. Harvey in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you identify an article of clothing he's wearing and point him out?
Blue tie suit.
Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
It so reflects.
Essentially, after you have at this point a potential homicide scene, is that fair?
Correct.
All right. What's patrol's responsibility for next steps?
We basically rope off the crime scene, interview people that are on scene, and our supervisors usually notify violent crimes and our crime scene unit, and then we basically just hold the scene until detectives arrive.
Okay. And so any further investigation or further interviews back at the station, anything like that, that would all be done by violent crime unit detectives?
Yes.
And that would include any kind of evidence preservation or photographs of the scene, things like that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Defense, any cross?
Officer, from your experience that you spoke about with dead bodies, it was obvious to you she had a gunshot wound?
I didn't say that.
I'm asking, was it obvious she had a gunshot wound?
I couldn't tell if she had a gunshot wound.
It's obvious that she was deceased to you?
Yes.
And earlier on direct, you said that Mr. Harvey's demeanor was frantic.
A little bit.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
No, sir. Be excused with our thanks.
All right, sir, you can step down. Thank you. So I think at this time it's probably a good time to take a break. Just the same reminders as before. Please don't discuss the case or do any research regarding the case. And then we'll see you back here in about 10 or 15 minutes when you all have a chance to take a break. All right, let's go back on the record. This case, 2021 CF 2146, State of Florida versus Christopher Harvey. Defendant is present in this courtroom with his counsel, with all their counsel present as before. And who's joined you there at counsel table, Miss?
Judge, this is one of our investigators. His name is Jacob Mendelson.
And why is he at counsel table, though?
I'm staying here with him.
Your Honor, he's here because he's going to be running on technology, but he doesn't have to sit here now. He was just preparing while we had a break.
All right.
Where would you like him to sit?
I mean, you said, like, in front of the rail, just not at counsel table. It's fine.
Okay, so he needs to sit up.
Yeah. Anything before we bring the jury back in?
Yes, sir.
Seems like our gallery is at about 20% of what it was before, so I suspect most people are not in here. I would just ask that for those members sitting in the gallery, that sitting in the gallery is a privilege. If you're having any reactions to testimonies, or if you don't think you'll be able to control that, I would ask that you just step out now. If I feel you're having any kind of impact on the jury whatsoever, or any kind of other disruption to the proceeding, you will be excused and not allowed back. So just please keep that in mind, and for those that have not yet rejoined you in the gallery, if you could gently remind them of that as we proceed. I mean, because the testimony, I imagine, will get a lot worse than it has been so far. So, anything else before we move around?
Yes, sir. Nothing from the defense.
All right, so let's do that.
All rise. Ready for.
All right. Please be seated. And state your next witness.
State House Jerry Moore.
Good morning, sir. Can I get you to just pause right there for a moment? Raise your right hand, face our clerk to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, thank you. And then have a seat right here and pull up close to that microphone so we can hear you. State when you're ready.
Good morning. Could you please state and spell your name?
Jerry Moore, Jerry-Moore.
Could you do me a favor, pull that microphone a little bit closer to you, just so we can hear you. Mr. Moore, how old are you?
56.
And I want to draw your attention to why you're here on this case. Do you know someone named Christopher Harvey?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Mr. Harvey?
I've been knowing him for a couple of years, you know.
Good for all of us, sir. You can see it. Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Can you pull that microphone any closer to you? There we go. All right. How do you know Mr. Harvey?
I've been knowing him for years. You know, we grew up together. Not grew up together. We've been hanging out together for years, you know, throughout the time.
Okay. Were you guys close? How would you describe your relationship?
Nah, he's always look up to, like our uncle or something like that.
Is that what he called you?
Yeah.
What did you call him?
Nephew.
But you guys don't have any kind of blood relation?
No, that was him.
Where were you living back in August 2021?
2021. I think I was living with his uncle.
Whose uncle?
Kendall Harvey.
Okay, Mr. Harvey's uncle?
Mm-hmm.
And where was that?
That's on Botany Place.
Botany Place?
Off Orange Avenue.
Okay. Do you remember the street address?
I don't know, it's 2811. I can't remember the street address. But I know that I can't remember the street address. I know it's off of Botany Place.
Okay, and you kind of are a little soft-spoken, so if you can just try speaking up a little bit so we can hear you, okay?
Yes.
All right. What was Botany Place? Was it a house or an apartment?
It's an apartment complex.
Were they like individual like apartments like with multiple levels, or were they townhouses?
Townhouse kind of, yeah.
Okay, so you shared, I guess, a wall with another townhouse?
Yeah, right.
Would Mr. Harvey stay there sometimes?
Every now and then, not much.
Not much?
Right.
Would he often come over there and visit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On August 13th, 2021, did Mr. Harvey come over and visit?
Yeah.
Right. And do you remember about what time he came over?
Probably around 8, 9, something like that.
In the evening?
Yeah.
And what were you guys doing?
We were out drinking beer in the driveway.
In the driveway of the Botany Place townhouse?
Yes.
Is that something that y'all would do a lot?
Pretty much. We ain't got nothing else to do, yeah.
Okay. Who all was out there with you?
His uncle was out there and some other dude sitting next door, a couple doors down.
All right. And you also? You were out there and
Yeah.
Mr. Harvey was out there?
Yeah.
What was Mr. Christopher Harvey's vibe?
I mean, like always, you know. I mean, natural, like always.
Okay. At some point, was he on his phone a lot?
No, not at that time.
Not at that time? Okay.
No.
Well, what do you remember happening after y'all had been out drinking beer?
What I remember? You mean, what you mean?
Like, so at some point, did Mr. Harvey leave?
When he left? I don't mean, you losing me.
Okay. So you said y'all were out there drinking beer.
Yeah.
About how long do you think you were out there drinking beer?
Oh, shoot, probably about maybe an hour, a couple hours, if I say.
Okay.
About 10, 11, I imagine.
All right. Did you notice anything about Mr. Harvey before he left?
Nothing, but when somebody takes his phone or whatever, and I guess it ticked him off or whatever. I mean, it was a bad text, I'll tell you that. I mean, whoever texted that, you know, should have did that, because we always out there telling him, asking him what this text for, who texted him and everything. So somebody said that he was his girlfriend was at the motel for a while, and left like that. I don't get into nothing like that right there. I didn't ask who it was or nothing. So the only thing I did was try to say, hey man, don't go do nothing silly.
Okay. So you mentioned he was getting a text or texts?
Somebody texted his phone.
Mr. Christopher Harvey?
Yeah.
All right. And you said, was he ticked off? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he got ticked off after he seen the text.
Okay. And what do you mean by ticked off? Angry?
I'm mad, yeah, upset.
All right. And you said it had something to do with his girlfriend?
Yeah.
Did you know his girlfriend at the time?
I knew, but not like that.
All right. Did you know her name?
Only thing I remember is her name was
Rodrica. All right. Did you have a relationship, or were you friends with her?
No.
Family with her, anything like that?
No.
Would you see her ever when you were hanging out with Mr. Harvey?
Yeah. Every time he takes me to his house or whatever, that's the only time I see her.
All right. And his house, where was his house?
Off for Lake Bradford, East State.
Okay. Does Cathedral sound right?
I think that's the name of it.
Okay.
Cathedral? Yeah, I think it is.
Do you go over there often?
Not much.
So after he got ticked off, you said you were trying to what? Calm him down? Is that what you're saying?
Not only me, the guy from the neighbor, he came and walked him up and down the street and trying to calm him down. So.
Did he calm down?
Yeah, he calmed down a little bit. He calmed down.
Okay. What happened after that?
We all started back drinking beer or whatever, and the time was getting late and everything, so everybody went their own ways, and so I was the only one still out. His uncle went back in the house, so I was still talking with him, telling him, man, go ahead, go on home, and don't go do nothing. He said.
Okay, so Mr. Christopher Harvey's uncle, who's also named Mr. Harvey, went back in the house, and you and Mr. Christopher Harvey stayed outside and talked a little more, right? And what did he tell you? Do you remember?
We just started talking, just convincing him, going home and don't try to, go do nothing, that I wouldn't do. So
that was what you were telling him?
Yeah.
Was he telling you anything?
No.
Okay. I mean, did you feel like he was listening to you? Or?
I don't know whether he was or not. I was just trying to, convince him not to go do nothing, that unnecessary.
Did he tell you anything about, why he was angry?
No, but that text. That
text, okay. Did he tell you about his plans or anything he was going to go do?
No.
So at some point, did he leave?
Yeah, he left.
Did you speak to him after he left?
No.
Okay. Did you have his phone number at the time?
Yeah.
And do you remember what your phone number was at the time?
I can't remember.
Okay. Did you speak to him on the phone?
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So after he left, talk to us about the next time you spoke to him on the phone after he left.
Yeah. When he left, he went up to the where she was at the motel, and I called him, and I think he called me first, I believe. I don't know. But anyway, he told me he was already up there. I said, man, get from up there. So he didn't say nothing else. He hung up, So
okay, and when you say where she was at, did he convey to you who was up there?
Yeah.
Who was it?
His girlfriend.
Okay, Rodrica?
Yeah.
All right. Did he ever make any threats about what he was going to do to Rodrica when you were on the phone with him?
Not as I know of.
Okay. Did he ever mention he was going to kill anybody?
No.
No. Okay. What was the next time after you had that first call with him when he was at the hotel? Did you get another phone call?
It was like I had called him around about I can't remember the time, but I called him and checked on him to see if he had made it home. So he didn't answer. So he called me back around I don't know what time and said, yeah, I made it home. And so I said, y'all all right? He said, yeah, I'm all right. We good. We all right. And so the last word I heard her say, he said, but he shot the phone down after he said, she said that, he said that, why you throwing away his stuff? Because she said it's trash. And so he shot the phone down, and next thing you know, I just heard it like a gun rack. I hung the phone up. I didn't want to hear it.
Okay. Do you know, so you were on the phone with Mr. Harvey, and you said you heard somebody say?
What? Say what?
You said you heard him with someone when he was on the phone?
No, I said, the last word I heard, Rodrica said, they said they was talking because he had me on the phone. I guess he thought he had hung up. So she said, whoever said that, why you throwing my stuff? She said, because it's trash.
So Mr. Christopher Harvey asked her, why are you throwing stuff? And she responded, because it's trash?
Yeah.
All right. And what did you hear after that?
I just said something like a gun caught back.
Okay. Was he still holding, do you know, was he still on the phone with you? Were you on,
I don't know.
Were you able to hear what?
I don't know whether he knew. He probably forgot that he was on the phone with me and shot the phone down. After I heard that, I just hung up.
Okay. And you said you heard you were motioning with someone racking a gun back?
That's what it sounded like.
Okay. You weren't there? You weren't there?
No.
Where were you?
I was at the house, at the apartment.
At Botany?
Yeah.
Okay. So you hung up the phone. Did he contact you after that?
Yeah. Hours later.
How long after?
Hours.
Hours? Okay. And what did he say then?
He asked me, was I still up? I said, yeah, I'm still up. He said he finna come over. So he came over.
Okay. Did he come over?
Yeah.
And that was to Botany Place?
Yes.
All right. What did he do when he came over?
He pulled up. He had asked me. I told him the door was gonna be unlocked. I didn't go outside or nothing like that. When he pulled up, I heard it when he pulled up. I was still laying on the couch, and I seen fire in the back gate and fence. So I got up and seen. I said, "What fire doing out here?" So apparently, he was standing outside smoking a black and mild, and the fire was on the inside of the fence.
Who was standing outside?
Chris Harvey was standing on the outside of the fence, and the fire was on the inside of the fence, You smoking on a Black and Mild.
Is that a fire pit that y'all have?
No, you can't burn fire there.
It's just like in the backyard.
Yeah.
Did you go out and talk to it?
Nope, I didn't go outside.
Why not?
It was late, that time in the morning. Oh.
And do you know if he ever came back inside the house?
Yeah, he came inside after he got through smoking his Black and Mild, because that's all he smoked, Black and Mild.
Okay. And did you talk to him then?
I might have said, everything all right? And then he laid down and went to sleep.
Okay. What happened later that day? Because that was early hours of the morning, right?
That was the night. Yeah, going on to the next morning, yeah. But 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, we got up and everything, so he told his Uncle Kendall, if he don't see him no more, he love him. So, and then he asked me to come ride with him. So I get in the truck and we ride. And I said, where you going? He didn't say nothing. So we got that past Lake Bradford. I said, man, where you going? He said, you're going to turn yourself in. I need me to drive the truck back. So I said, for what? He never say. So we pulled in the driveway and I said, what's wrong, man? He dropped his head. He said, I killed her, don't say nothing.
Okay. And that was when you guys were in the driveway of the
At his house, yeah.
cathedral house?
Yes.
What kind of truck did he drive?
A white dually.
Dually? Like big?
Big truck, yeah.
After he told you that, like, what was going on through your head?
Scared, crying. I jumped out the truck. I was finna run, but I was so scared I didn't know what to do.
Did you ever go inside the house?
No, I didn't.
And when police arrived, did they, contact you and they spoke with you?
Yeah.
Did you later give an interview at the sheriff's station?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Did you give them permission to take a swab of inside of your cheek?
Yeah.
Did you also let them look at your phone?
Yeah.
And that was the phone that you had, the only phone you had at that?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes.
You communicated with Mr. Christopher Harvey on?
Yes.
You'd mentioned that there was a fire going early hours of the morning at Botany that Mr. Christopher Harvey was standing by. The next well, not the next morning, but later that morning when you guys woke up, was the fire still burning?
No, it was out.
Did you ever ask him about that or
No.
know anything about that other than seeing it?
No.
Did you tell the sheriff's office, the detective, about the fire?
They came in the apartment because they wanted to know where he slept at when he came over there, and so they had to get his uncle permission to go and to see where and to see where he's sleeping at and everything, to search or whatever they were looking for. So I guess his uncle gave him permission to do that and everything. So.
Okay. But did you, I guess my question was, had you told detectives about seeing Mr. Harvey outside with a fire?
Yeah.
Okay. At Botany. When he was in the driveway, I guess you were in the front passenger seat of his truck?
Yeah.
And was he was in the driver's seat?
Yeah.
Anybody else in the truck with you?
No.
All right. When you were in there and you said he hung his head real low, had you ever seen him like that before?
No, never.
Is that the first time you had heard him talk about like him killing her?
Yeah.
Who did you understand her to mean?
That again?
Who did you understand? You said he lowered his head and said, "I killed her."
Yeah.
Who did you understand her to mean? Who was her? Rodrica.
Yeah.
I don't have anything further this time. Thanks, Mr. Moore. The defense attorney might have some questions for you.
Right.
Cross.
Hi, Mr. Moore.
How you doing?
Now, you said that when you spoke to Christopher Harvey and he was at the hotel, that was 10, 11?
I don't know particularly what time.
You're not sure? Okay. Do you know what time he came
No.
to the house at Botany Place?
It was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock, I imagine.
And when you say 5:30, 6 o'clock, is that...
I don't know exact time, what time.
Okay, hold on for me one second. I'm going to try to help you answer my question, okay? When you say 5 or 6, is that the morning of?
Going in next morning. The next morning, yeah.
Now, you said you heard a noise you thought to be a gun racking, right?
Yeah.
You didn't hear any other conversation? No one says, "Don't shoot," no one screams, nothing like that, right? And you don't call law enforcement?
Did I? Right. No, for what?
And you didn't talk to Kendall Harvey about it?
No.
And when Chris came back to the house, right, you don't ask him about it?
You lose me. What you mean when Chris came back to the house?
So the next morning, around 5 or 6 on August 14th, you didn't bring up with Mr. Harvey that you thought you heard a gun racking, right?
Bring Kendall Harvey, his uncle. Which one are you talking about? It's two Harveys. Go ahead.
You did not ask Christopher Harvey about hearing a gun rack, right?
No, I didn't.
And you said that when Christopher Harvey came back to the house on August 14th, he seemed fine to you, right?
Yeah.
He's calm, he looks normal.
Yes.
And you testified about this fire that you see outside.
Yeah.
And when Christopher Harvey comes back into the house, you don't ask him about the fire.
Nope.
He didn't take a shower.
No.
Tell you need to smoke off, anything like
that?
No. And then I think you said on direct that the fire was out. Am I to believe then that you had gone outside and checked on it at some point?
No.
And so you never went outside and sure it was out?
No.
Now, you said that you're distraught and upset when you get to Cathedral Place, right?
I said what now?
You said you were distraught and upset when
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. And Mr. Moore, you said that you get to Cathedral Place, right? And Chris Harvey makes this confession to you, and you're immediately crying. You're upset.
Yeah.
You're distraught. You jump out of the truck. Is that right? And you go to flee. You're not really sure what to do.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a video.
Because I don't have an issue with them if they're trying to show the witness something, but this hasn't been entered into evidence yet for the jury to see it.
And, Your Honor, I believe it would go to impeachment.
Yeah, but what is it?
Surveillance video from the house across from Cathedral.
So are you going to enter it in evidence?
No, it's for impeachment, Your Honor. I don't believe I have to enter it into evidence. I believe the state intends to do that later.
Did you want to show the witness without showing the jury then?
I don't believe I have to excuse the jury, but I can do that if Your Honor would prefer.
Why don't you just bring the laptop up and show the witness?
And I just want you to point to me when you're distraught and upset and crying, okay, Mr. Moore?
Mm-hmm. Can't see it.
Can you look over here?
I can't see it good.
You would agree with me closing the door normally, walking around the vehicle? And he appears to be running.
Well, I don't see nothing. I see where I just got out the truck. I mean,
So you just see yourself getting out of the vehicle?
yeah, exactly.
And Mr. Moore, it was your testimony on direct that you told the officers at Botany Place about the fire. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Hang on for me 1 second. I don't know that I have it. And Mr. Moore, just to clarify a little bit, when you were interviewed by law enforcement, right, after you were taken from Cathedral Place, did you tell those officers about the fire at Botany Place?
Yeah, after they interrogated me at the police station, they came back. After they did that, they came back. That's when they had the owner who lived at that place at the time. Could he get permission to? I said, I can't give you the authority to go in and search the place.
Yes, sir, I understand. So I'll just ask you again. When you were talking to officers, right, at the Tallahassee Police Department, did you tell those officers that you had seen a fire at Botany Place?
Yeah, I told them.
You told them then? Okay. No further questions.
State, any redirect?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Moore, I want to take you back to when you heard the gun rack when you were on the phone and the defense was asking you, you didn't hear anything after, you didn't hear any screaming or any gunshots.
No.
Why didn't you hear anything after the gun rack? What did you do?
I hung the phone up.
Hung the phone up. Right, why?
I didn't want to hear whatever that was. It might have been. I just didn't want to hear.
And they asked you why, that you didn't call the police. Why didn't you call the police?
I didn't listen. Like I said, I didn't know whether it was or what. I just heard it sound like it. I didn't say it was. No, it could have been not.
I mean, I guess once you find out that Miss Hill was murdered, is that when you think back to the sound?
Sustain. Next question.
So at the time you hear the sound that you think is like a gun round, you said you hung up because you were scared.
Yeah.
When Mr. Christopher Harvey comes back to Botany, and the defense also asked you, did you ever go out to the fire? How did you see that there was a fire? Where were you?
In the front room, laying on the couch. Okay. I can see it through the back window, the back kitchen window. So because we haven't seen, your house yet. So can you explain to the jury, where you were, how you were able to see outside? Yes, I was the couch. It had two couches, and I was on the long couch, and I was facing toward the back door and the back window. You walk out the back door, it's a little yard back there, with a fenced-in yard. That's how I can see it.
Okay, so you said there's a window. Is that window facing the backyard?
Yeah.
Okay, and that you saw the fire out of there?
Yeah.
How did you know that the fire was out the next morning?
Because it didn't stay. It didn't last long. I mean, when I look again, it was out.
Okay, but you still saw that from your spot in the living room, looking out that kitchen window.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you and Mr. Christopher Harvey? Were you guys fighting at the time? Did you have any beef?
No, none of that.
Is he somebody that you trusted?
Yeah.
Do you know? Did he trust you?
Pretty much, yeah.
How often did you guys talk?
Pretty much every time we get a chance, we hang out.
Did you hang out frequently? Like a couple times a week, couple times a month?
A few times, the weekends, stuff like that.
Okay. And that was how long of a relationship with him?
Years, I can say. Been years.
Years, like more than...
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, more than 10 years, yeah. Yeah.
Did you want to be involved in this case?
Nope.
Did Mr. Harvey tell you some things that kind of made you involved in this case?
Nope.
No? Mr. Christopher Harvey, that's why you're here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody ever tell you what to say?
Nope.
And when you were initially talking with the sheriff's deputies, did you also talk to them about what Mr. Harvey had told you?
Pretty much, yeah. Same thing I'm telling you.
Okay. And do you remember relatively recently giving a deposition? And I was there, and Ms. Brewer was there in Jefferson County?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And you answered questions then about what happened?
Yeah.
Do you see Christopher Harvey in the courtroom today?
Yeah.
Can you identify him by an article of clothing he's wearing?
Say it again?
Can you identify him by pointing him out and identifying an article of clothing he's wearing?
He's right there. Dread, black.
With dread hair? Can you tell me what color shirt he's wearing?
White t-shirt, I guess.
All right. Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
It's a reflect. All right, sir, you may step down. State your next witness.
State calls Miss Veronica Henry.
Good morning, ma'am. If I could have you pause around there, face our clerk, raise your right hand to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
All right, and then just have a seat here and pull up close to that mic so we can hear you. State when you're ready.
Good morning. Could you please introduce yourself to us and spell your name?
Veronica Henry, V''R''ONICA. Last name Henry, HENRY.
And Miss Henry, Are you currently living up in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. So we're trying to get you on your way and back to Georgia.
I appreciate that.
All right. How do you know Miss Rodrica Hill?
I've been on Rodrica Hill since 8th grade.
8th grade. Did you grow up here in town?
Yes.
Go to school together?
Yes, we went to school together.
What school was that?
Fairview Middle School.
And between middle school up until the time of her death, were you guys good friends?
Yes.
How often would you talk to her?
At least 4 times during the week.
All right, every week?
Yes, every week.
How long were you living in Tallahassee before you moved?
Ooh.
I guess that
It was on and off.
Okay, all right.
So you could say about 20 years on and off.
And that's how long you knew Miss Hill?
18 plus years, yeah.
18 plus years. All right. So even after you did move, did you still come back and visit?
Yes.
Did you come to visit her or somebody else?
I would visit her and my family.
How often would you visit her?
Every time I came back to see my family. She is family.
Okay. You all had that kind of relationship?
Yes.
All right. I want to talk to you about her relationship with Christopher Harvey. Is that somebody that you knew?
Yes.
And how long had you known him?
About 10 years.
Did you meet him through Miss Hill or through somebody else?
Miss Hill.
And what was the relationship between Mr. Harvey and Miss Hill?
They were dating at the time.
At the time you met him?
Yes.
And that was about 10 years?
About 10 years ago.
At some point, did they move in together?
Yes.
Do you remember how long into the relationship that was?
That I'm not sure.
Okay. At some point, did they get a house together on Cathedral Drive?
Yes.
Do you remember idea of time on that?
Right now, it's not ringing a bell. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. How would you describe the nature of their relationship?
Timeline?
Yeah, I mean, was it? You said that they were together, and then at some point they moved in together.
Yeah. So.
Did they ever get married?
No.
Okay. What did they refer to each other as? Like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, fiance, do you know?
Boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay. Do you know if they were going to get married?
They were supposed to.
Over the course of the relationship, was it, I guess my question is, was it ever rocky? Were there ever issues?
Yes.
Would they like break up and get back together, stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay. Was that a fairly common thing?
Yes, it was common.
All right. Do you know if they had what's called an open relationship?
No, I never heard of that.
Don't know, or they did not?
I never heard of them having an open relationship.
Okay. From your understanding, when they were together, they were loyal to one another?
When they were together, were they loyal the entire time? No.
No. Okay. So was there cheating on both sides?
Early in, yes.
Okay. So both Miss Hill would kind of cheat outside the relationship, as would Mr. Harvey?
They've both done it, yes.
Did that continue to cause some issues in the relationship?
On one part.
I'm sorry, on what part?
On one party. It caused issues on one party, yes.
Can you explain that?
Rodrica.
What do you mean by that?
On Rodrica's side, I guess whenever they decided to mend things and get things together, Mr. Harvey was cheating and continued cheating and was getting caught.
Okay. And at that point in time, were you aware of Miss Hill's feelings on that?
Yes.
Was she okay with it, or?
No, she was hurt.
All right. Are you aware of Miss Hill's desire to leave the relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk to us about that?
Rodrica, she wanted to be with Mr. Harvey. She wanted the best for him, but she started learning that she needed the best for herself, so she wanted to get out of the relationship. It wasn't easy for her to get out of the relationship, but the moment that she said she was done, she felt free.
Okay. Do you remember a timeline of that? Like,
Oh, I want to say a little after 2020 is when she became free.
okay. Were they still living together?
Yes,
Right. Do you know why?
a couple of reasons. I was told from Rodrica that.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
That's okay. You don't need to get into what she told you.
Okay.
So they were still living together, but they were no longer romantically involved.
Correct.
Okay. And that was at what point in time did you say? End of 2020?
Yes, but they have not been romantically involved in a long time.
They had not been romantically involved prior to end of 2020. Okay.
Yes.
This calls for hearsay as well. This witness has no independent knowledge other than what she would have heard from Ms. Hill.
May inquire is the source of knowledge, Ms. Fox.
Were you around her a lot?
Yes.
Were you around her and Mr. Harvey a lot?
Not Mr. Harvey.
Okay. So at some point, did she stop bringing Mr. Harvey around and she wasn't with him anymore?
No, it was because I moved. I wasn't around them as much.
Okay. I want to turn your attention to August 14th of 2021. Well, I guess more August 13th into the 14th of 2021. Where were you at that time?
Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay. What were you doing in Tallahassee?
Visiting my mother. She had lost a family member.
Were you also going to, or try to visit Miss Hill while you were there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you communicate with Miss Hill that night into the 13th, into the early morning hours of the 14th?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know Miss Hill to have a cell phone?
Yes.
Is that how you communicated with her?
Yes.
All right. How many phone numbers did you have for Miss Hill?
1.
Do you know what that phone number is that you used to communicate with her?
I never remember her number off the top of my head, but I do have it.
Okay. Where do you have it?
In my cell phone.
Right. Would that refresh your recollection of the number that you used to communicate with her?
Yes.
Okay. You can.
Oh, okay.
When you were speaking with her that night, did there come an occasion when you were on the phone with her when she was at a motel?
Yes.
Could you hear what was happening kind of on the other end of the phone where she was?
Yes.
What did you hear happening?
Yelling and banging on doors.
Okay. Could you hear who was yelling or who was banging on doors?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled.
Can I answer? Oh, okay. I heard Mr. Harvey's voice.
All right. Is that a voice that you were familiar with?
Yes.
Okay. And could you make out what he was saying?
No.
All right. What was the tone of his voice?
He was yelling.
And you said banging on doors?
Yes.
Were you speaking on the phone with Miss Hill while this was happening?
Yes.
What was her demeanor?
She was scared.
Was she explaining to you what was happening while it was happening to her?
Yes.
What did she say was happening to her?
She said that that's Chris banging on all of the doors. And I told her I could hear his voice. So.
Had you heard her scared like that before?
Never.
Right. What happened next?
So, sorry. She was telling me what was happening, but in the midst of her explaining to me what was happening, Mr. Harvey was calling. So she said, I'm going to just text you. He's calling me now. I'm going to just text you. So we went back into texting.
Do you know, I mean, other than him yelling and banging on doors, did she tell you anything else that was happening right then?
She was just explaining to me that about like everything that was happening, like just in general. I don't know if you want me to go in.
Yeah,
She just was telling me everything was happening about like with the tracker and how she needed to go to the police station, and on Monday.
This is hearsay.
State a response.
Spontaneous statement and excited utterance.
Sustained.
Was she explaining to you what was going on while it was happening to her?
Yes, she was.
Did she appear to be upset?
Yes, she was.
Was she crying? What was her state of mind?
She was not crying. She was afraid. She was explaining to me that she was afraid.
Okay. Could you also hear it in your voice?
Yes, I could hear it in her voice.
What was the source of that fear?
You have to explain that.
What was causing her to be afraid?
Chris is just his loudness and aggressiveness.
Right. Did she communicate to you her future plans that she was going to leave him?
Yes, she did.
So you said that at some point you got off the phone with her because Mr. Harvey was calling her?
Yes.
All right. And what happened after that? You weren't talking to her. At some point, did she reach out again?
I reached out to her via text message.
Okay, just to check on her or what?
Yes, to figure out what was happening.
Did you get a response?
Yes, I did.
All right. Do you remember about the time it was that you were talking to her?
Ooh. I want to say the very beginning, it was somewhere around 2 a.m. and the conversation ended around 3 a.m.
And that was on August 14th?
Yes.
What was your phone number? What was the last, you don't need to get into what was said, but what time was your last communication with her? The text messages?
Somewhere around 3 a.m.
3 a.m. After that, did you ever hear from her again?
Nope.
I don't have anything further at this time.
Cross. All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Step down then. State your next witness.
Deputy Amber Bosley.
Morning, ma'am. If you could pause there for a moment and face our clerk, raise your right hand to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. And then have a seat there and pull up close to that microphone. And stay when you're ready.
Good morning. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name?
Deputy Amber Bosley, Bosley.
How are you employed?
At the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
Deputy.
Okay. Is that patrol?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
Just over 3 years.
Were you working as a patrol deputy back on August 14th of 2021?
Yes.
And were you dispatched to a scene at 2954 Cathedral Drive?
Yes.
Do you remember what time you arrived?
I would have to refer to my report.
If that'll refresh your recollection.
Absolutely. Approximately 13, 14 hours.
So 1:14 p.m.?
Correct.
Did you make contact with someone by the name of Christopher Harvey?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see Mr. Harvey in the courtroom?
Yes.
Can you identify him by an article of clothing he's wearing?
Blue or black suit.
Okay. There's a table of 3 people. What position is he in?
The middle seat.
Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
That's a reflex.
Were you kind of just one of the first responders helping with scene security until the VCU Violent Crimes Unit detectives could arrive on scene?
Yes.
Okay. While you were there on scene, was one of your tasks to stand by with Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Right. Is that a common practice when you come up on a crime scene to have a deputy stand by anybody who was there when the 911 call was placed?
Yes.
Why is that?
If they may be a possible witness, we want to keep witnesses separated until we know what's going on.
Okay. And was Mr. Jerry Moore also there?
Yes.
Okay. So they were separated.
Correct.
Okay. And when you were with Mr. Harvey, did you obtain 2 cell phones from him?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do with those cell phones?
I held on to them for the duration of while I was on scene, and then they were passed over to Deputy Bauman.
Okay. And at that point, do you know what Deputy Bauman did with them?
He packaged them in a little bag, and after that, I don't know what he did with them.
Okay. When you guys are out on scenes like this, do you work as a team?
Yes.
Did you consider it chaotic?
Yes.
All right. The phones that you took from Mr. Harvey, they were preserved through a chain of custody to Deputy Bauman?
Correct.
I don't have anything further at this time.
Defense?
Good morning. Did you say it's deputy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry, I didn't write that down. Okay, Deputy Bosley, you never went inside the house at Cathedral Drive, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And therefore, you never saw the victim inside?
Correct.
And you just said, I think, that you obtained the 2 cell phones, right?
Correct.
But isn't it also true that Mr. Harvey gave you his 2 cell phones?
That's correct.
Okay. And he gave you the numbers for both of the phones, right?
Yes.
And he gave you the correct numbers?
Yes. To my knowledge. To my knowledge.
Okay. And then at some point you asked him to sit in the back of your car while you guys are figuring out what's going on?
Correct.
Okay. And was it at that point that he realized he was a suspect?
He was not cuffed then, and we just told him if he could sit there while we figure things out. So I'm not sure at that point if he thought that was what was happening.
Okay, he wasn't free to leave, right?
Correct.
You didn't allow him to go back inside the house?
Correct.
He did ask to go inside the house?
Yes.
And he did cry about his girlfriend inside?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, twice, right?
I'm not sure the actual amount of times that he...
Okay. Well, you have no reason to dispute that was twice, right?
Correct.
I mean, if it shows it on your body-worn camera, you have no reason to dispute that.
Correct.
Okay. And you would agree with me that Mr. Harvey was helpful to your investigation, right?
In the beginning, I would say yes.
Okay. He quickly told you, where cameras were.
Correct.
Okay. He mentioned to check the Ring camera.
Yes.
He also told you to check the neighbors' cameras.
Yes.
He told you that he was at the Days Inn the night before.
Can I make your say?
Defense, do you have a response to that?
Yes, Your Honor. This goes to the course of what she did afterwards in the investigation.
Sure. Go ahead.
So he told you that he was at the Days Inn the night before?
Correct.
Okay. And also told you people to contact for his whereabouts?
Yes.
Okay. He offered to let you search his truck?
Somewhat.
Okay. Are you disputing that?
No. No.
Okay. And And I believe you said that you were standing by with Mr. Harvey. Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Okay. And during that time, you had conversations about other possible suspicious activity in the area?
Correct.
All right. And you learned that there was a motorcycle parked across the street?
Yes.
You notated that in your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is it fair to say that your entire involvement in this case was on August 14th of 2021?
Yes.
And you didn't do any follow-up after that day?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may I have just one moment?
Amen.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirects, Dave? Go ahead.
I think you were trying to explain somewhat when your answer. What were you saying about allowing him to search the truck?
He had offered to, when I asked about employment, go get me a business card from his truck, and I advised him to stay back with me. And then he advised Deputy Pye that he was trying to open the door so we could go in it if we wanted to, but I also tried to tell him to stay back with us.
Okay. How would you have classified his demeanor when you were interacting with him?
Your Honor, outside the scope of my cross.
Overall. Go ahead.
You can answer.
What was the rest of the question?
While you were interacting with him, what was his demeanor?
Prior to being in the patrol car, I would say just forthcoming with everything that occurred, when mainly the first thing I was asking was just identification. Prior to being in the patrol car, it was a different demeanor, as in more we're treating him like a suspect and more emotion at that time.
After he was...
As in, crying and showing more emotion in that way.
Once he was in the patrol car, he was showing more emotion.
Correct.
The defense was asking you about him, being detained. Is that common in these investigations? You detain the people that are on scene?
I'm not sure the reason why he was put back there. It was said to me that, hey, we're going to go do this. It was hot outside, could be a reason. We offered water, AC, just to get out of the elements. And I'm not really completely sure of the exact reason why we went that way.
I mean, fair to say your role was an assist role.
Correct.
What other sergeants and people were asking you to do.
Correct.
The defense was asking you didn't do any follow-up, that's all you did. Is doing follow-up in a case like this your job?
No.
Right. It's sent off to violent crimes investigators, and they do any follow-up necessary.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have anything further.
Any cross on that, defense?
No, Your Honor.
You may sit down, ma'am. Thanks. State your next witness, please.
Chris Smith.
Good morning, sir. Can you stand and face our clerk, raise your right hand and be sworn?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, then just have a seat there and state when you're ready.
Sure. And Judge, just to gauge for a good stopping place? About how much further do you want to go before a break for lunch?
I think 12:30.
Okay, yes, sir. Good morning. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Chris Smith.
Right. Regular Smith spelling.
Regular Smith spelling, yes.
I've been asking a lot of spelling questions. I don't think we need one on you. Could you tell the jury where you're employed?
I'm employed with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. I work with the crime scene unit, and I've been there for approximately 8 years.
Right. Did you have any law enforcement experience prior to that?
I've worked with the Sheriff's Office for 12 years, and I was with the Attorney General for 2 years.
As a crime scene detective, can you let the jury know what your job is and the training that enables you to do that job?
Sure. In the crime scene unit, we are sent to basic crime scene training. We learn, photography, evidence collection, photography, things like that. And then I have a specialty in gunshot reconstruction.
Okay. How many hours of crime scene training and other type of forensic training do you have?
A couple hundred hours.
Okay. And you've been doing that for 8 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you the designated crime scene detective that came out to 2954 Cathedral Drive on August 14th?
Yes, I was.
When you are responding to a crime scene, what are your duties once you get there?
Once we get there, on any scene, we wait until violent crimes detectives and supervisor are there, and I'll usually wait for our supervisor to get there, and then we put our game plan together. The role is to document as much of the scene as we can from the outside and that's through photography and video. And there's certain things that I look for on every scene. And then we'll take a walkthrough, and nothing is disturbed on the scene, so everyone gets a chance to see the entire scene. And then I'll go back through, again, photograph and video without touching anything or moving, disturbing. And then we'll go back out and we'll get together, and then we begin our evidence collection.
When you collect a piece of evidence, how do you do that?
It's photographed, we collect it, and then secure it and place it in our vault at the office.
When you're doing that, what kind of protective equipment are you wearing?
We're wearing everything, gloves, of course, because we don't want to leave anything behind. Usually booties, and sometimes a full suit.
Full business suit like you have on today?
No, ma'am, it would be a full Tyvek suit.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means we're gloved up, we have a protective suit so we don't get anything on us and we don't leave anything behind. Hat, mask, eyewear, and booties.
When you collect a piece of evidence, do you change gloves between each piece of evidence you're handling?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's the purpose of that?
Just so we don't, again, leave anything or transfer any evidence to another piece of evidence.
Okay, so it kind of preserve the DNA and not cross-contaminate?
Absolutely.
All right. You mentioned documenting the scene. Fair to say you took a significant amount of photos?
Yes, ma'am. We have a couple thousand photos.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review a selection of those photos? So
Yes, I have.
For a significant amount of time, hours. And that was marked as States Composite 3A through ZZZZZZ4.
Yes, ma'am.
Were those fair and accurate depictions of the scene at 2954 Cathedral Drive on August 14th, 2021, as you did your crime scene analysis?
Yes.
I would move 3A through ZZZZZZ4 into evidence.
Objection to that?
No objection.
All right, 3A through 6Z's, 4 admitted.
All right, permission to publish?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm publishing 3A. What are we looking at?
Right here, you're looking at the front of the residence, and it's got the 5 windows, and partially what you'll see in this is that I photograph to show that there's no broken windows or removed screens. I document the vehicles, so I take an outside shot and then move in.
And was the search of this property, it was pursuant to a lawful search warrant?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Going to 3B.
3B is showing the front door, and I do get the house number in there, the 2954, and then the Ring camera, and that's it in this photo.
Okay, so at this point you're kind of doing overalls. You haven't actually gone and manipulated any evidence or anything like that?
No, ma'am, just overalls, just document.
Would you later on, did you investigate this Ring camera?
Yes, we did.
What'd you find?
We found that the Ring camera was secure, on the wall, but it had no battery in it.
Right, 3C?
3C is just neighbor's house, the victim's vehicle, the white truck, and this is all, as you can see, outside of the crime scene tape. I haven't even moved into the scene yet, just to get those overalls.
Okay. Oh, sorry, actually, this was a video. Press play. Alright. 3D.
3D is the victim's vehicle.
That's a white Mazda sedan.
Yes.
Would you later do a search warrant on this vehicle?
We did. We had the tow company that we have contract with bring it to the sheriff's office. We have a secure location, and then we had a search warrant on it.
Do you remember why you didn't do it on scene?
There was weather, and I think they wanted a specific search warrant.
Okay. Like weather as in rain?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What does rain do to a crime scene?
Well, it makes it difficult to collect the fingerprints, and it could wash away blood evidence.
Right. 3E is just the back of the victim's Mazda.
Right. That's just to show the condition of the vehicle for 1, and 2, the license tag.
3F, is that the back side of the Mazda?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Any indications that the Mazda had been like broken into or tampered with or anyway?
No. Not that I can tell.
3G.
In the front of the vehicle.
Alright, moving to 3J.
Right, this is the white truck. The Ford 350.
Is that a dually pickup truck?
Yes, it is.
3L, 3M, 3N, 3O, 3P. What are we looking at now?
We're looking at the backyard now. The door to the laundry room is at the right at the top of the stairs, and we're still doing overall, so we haven't made entrance into the house. And this is the primary entrance of the house by what we're told from the residents.
Okay. So up on the deck, there's like another entrance door.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Q.
Yep, the stairs leading up to it.
R. S. T. Talk to me about the back deck.
The back deck leading up to the door that you could see onto the left. There was some blood on the deck at this point that we saw, and you'll see later in the photos there it's measured. Yep.
3U. 3V.
Yeah, it's hard to see. There's blood on the back deck right there.
3W. Were you able to collect any of this?
No, the rains got there beforehand.
All right. 3Y. Is that additional blood?
It is.
3Z. AA.
Yes, you can still see some.
Different blood spots now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 3BB. Close up of those.
Close up.
All right. Same as the others. Anything on the deck you weren't able to get swabs of?
That is correct. I was not.
It had already rained.
Yes.
C.
This is leading into the back door entrance of the house. Again, you can see the doors here, the sliding doors are not manipulated or damaged. And then the door leading into the house has no markings or damaging parts or broken glass.
Why do you look for that?
It rules out burglary in most cases. There's no forced entry. So I want to make sure that there's no broken windows, no pry marks, no damage, broken locks, things like that.
Did you find any of that?
I did not.
3ED, 3EE, 3FF. Right. You also go around and take photographs of every single exterior window?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Similar question to what we were looking at in the back. Any evidence of a broken window or a broken screen or an open window?
There was none of that. Everything was locked. All screens were in place, and there was no broken windows.
3HH, 3II, 3JJ, 3KK, 3LL, 3MM, right? Did you also take photographs of the backyard?
Yes, I did.
3NN. We going, what's going to be our angle of looking at this?
This is going to be looking from basically where the deck is. So we're going to be looking west, kind of a northwesterly, right, into the backyard. So if you're standing on the deck, it's just, we're going to be panning to the right.
3PP
Yes.
and 3QQ. 3RR, 3SS. Now I want to go back to 3QQ.
Yes.
What area do we look at when you're looking at that burn pit?
If you're standing in the front of the house and look down the driveway, you can look straight down the back past the white F-350, and you see the trailer and the little shed and a fire, a smoldering fire.
All right, is that about where my cursor is?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. Did you go through this fire to see if there was anything of evidentiary value?
Yes, I did.
All right, how do you do that?
What we'll do is take a rake, move things out of place, and then photograph it, and move a little bit more and photograph and dig through until we get to the, much of the fire as we can. At this point it was smoldering, so we didn't have a really active fire to deal with. So it was just still warm.
Okay. Was there anything that you located in the fire?
I did not locate anything in the fire.
TT. Is there some tire marks in front of the victim's vehicle?
There are tire marks, yes.
3UU, a close-up of those marks?
Yes.
And 3VV?
Yes, ma'am, there's
marks. In preparation for this trial, have you had the opportunity to look at some surveillance video, both from Ring and from the neighbor's surveillance camera, that might explain these tire marks?
Yes.
Okay, what was that?
The neighbor's house had a video of the Ford F-150, the one that's white in color, coming down the driveway in the afternoon and stopping near that vehicle.
Okay. The Ford F-150 that...
The 350?
Dually?
Yes.
All right. All right. Looking at 3WW. Are we about to go inside the house now?
We are.
3XX. And this is that back door on the deck?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, that's just showing there's no forced entry. You can see the lock and the doorknob itself, and then the latching mechanisms that are not damaged.
And that's a close-up of that in 3ZZ.
Yes.
So all the mechanisms were working properly and nothing had been pried or ripped open.
That's correct.
All right. 3 AAA. And 3 BBB. How has our perspective changed? Where are you now?
We're in the laundry room facing the deck, and we're looking at the rug that's on the back, and it has, looks like a blood mark there.
Okay. 3 CCC.
That's a close-up of it.
Where does the scale come from?
The scale is what we just use to mark everything, just so we have perspective on size. Because without that, the camera angles and things may throw things off. Make them either look smaller or bigger than they actually are.
3 DD, an additional spot of blood.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, 3 DDD. 3 EE.
That's your dryer
3 FFF.
and the washing machine.
Did you actually open up these, look in everything?
Yes, I did.
Evidentiary value?
Nothing of evidentiary value.
3 GGG.
This is going to be moving from the laundry room into the dining room and kitchen area.
3 HH.
That's looking to the right as we're entering that room.
And 3 III. And 3 JJ. Once you walk through that laundry room area, I'll go to 3 KK. What room do you enter?
You enter the dining room and then enter the kitchen and then the living room area.
Okay. Kind of open concept?
It is.
3 LL. Dining room table.
Dining room table.
3 MM. All right. 3 NN. Do you kind of go through and around the island and take photos as you go?
Yes, ma'am. I go through every drawer, every cabinet, refrigerator, freezer. I go through everything.
Let me ask you, have you done that yet?
Not yet. No, I have not. Up to this point, it's just documenting what I see.
Okay. So this drawer that's open, it was open before you got there?
Yes, ma'am.
As you found it? Okay. All right. 3 OO. Was there like a docking charging station there?
Yes, this is a dock to charge a phone and then 2 charger cables.
Any phone located there?
No phone at all.
Do you know, are you aware of, was this an Android charger or an iPhone charger?
They're Android.
All right. Going to 3 PPP.
Now we're looking back into the kitchen, and these drawers here were open just like that, and the lid to the trash can was off and sitting right where it was when I got there.
So where I move my cursor, kind of upper top right of the photo, is that where we were just looking at the charging station?
Yes, that's the charging station and the 2 charging wires.
Okay. Did you later look inside these drawers to see if anything appeared to be rifled through or taken?
Yes, ma'am, and I photographed them.
Okay. We'll get to those soon, but did anything appear to be rifled through? Or
No, ma'am.
how would you describe the insides of those drawers?
Orderly. They weren't messy or disrupted. They just looked like they were open.
All right. 3 QQ.
That's the trash can in the kitchen with a picture of the Harveys.
Is that like a photo album?
Yes, ma'am.
In the trash.
In the trash.
Going to 3 RR. Explain to us how we're looking for things now.
Right now what we're looking at is back towards the laundry room. So you have the kitchen counter, the dining room table, there's a chair on to the right, and then there's an area, a third of the way in, that is an area of smeared blood.
I want to ask you about this garbage can lid, since we just looked at the garbage can.
Yes.
Did you take this off, or was it like...
No, ma'am, it was just like that.
All right, 3SSS?
Yeah, again, this is the chair that was knocked over, some sandals that are underneath the chair. You've got a blood pattern here, and you're looking towards the dining room and the laundry room.
Where is the front door where the victim was located?
The front door is located over here to the right, just on the other side where the couch ends.
T.
In this photo, you can see the bedroom, of course, the dining room, part of the living room, and then the beginnings of the front door.
U.
Yeah, that's just a step back so we can get more of the dining room, table, kitchen, the spare bedroom, and then going into the living room.
Sorry. Going back to 3T, can you point out to the jury, we're going to look at it up close in a minute, where the areas where you found blood splatter?
Sure. There was some on the floor over here. You saw the big puddle of blood that was mixed with teeth and bones fragments. And then as you move through the house down this hallway here, you could see blood spatter across the grates in the wall, and then on this wall here, and then moving around.
Cursor is this. You said this wall here.
Yes, ma'am. And then we have a photo of it. When you look up to the ceiling, you'll see some spatter up there as well on the ceiling.
What portion of the ceiling? Dining room, living room?
Coming in from the dining room into the living room.
Okay. What about as you continue to the front door?
Right, you can see a smear mark here that we'll get a close-up of on the wall, and then there's some blood spatter throughout that wall and to the front door along the couch.
I'm assuming you went after, the primary crime scene. Did you go in and photograph each and every bedroom, bathroom of the house?
Yes, ma'am, did. Everything.
From the living room and the kitchen dining area, was there blood anywhere else in the house?
No. No, the bedrooms did not have blood.
All right. Going to 3VV. You mentioned that this area of blood smear under the kitchen island. Going to 3W, I'm sorry, triple W. Is that a closer up view of that?
It is. It's you could if we get a close up, yeah. Right, you can see bone fragments. There's fragments of teeth and coagulated blood. So it had been there for a while. You can see how the blood coagulates, and then how it's smeared here across the floor.
Okay. Coagulate, do you just mean kind of gets gummy?
It gets gummy and starts to dry up, yes.
Y. Is this kind of the edge of that we were just looking at, of the big area of blood with teeth?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And what was located along this pathway to the right?
There was a chain down here. You could see it. It says Sagittarius on it, and there's blood spatter all around it.
What about by the chair?
Yeah, there's some blood in the shoes and the laying of that chair.
All right, so going to 3A. Right. Is that after you put a scale down?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the necklace. 3BB. Is my cursor about where that necklace was located?
It's right on the necklace.
Okay. Did you locate anything else along this pathway?
Blood.
Okay. Three, quadruple C.
Yep, you can see some blood in this area. In the top. Yes, ma'am.
3, quadruple D.
Yes, there's some blood on the right-hand side of the photo, and then 2 blood droplets there in the hallway.
3, quadruple E. Is that just a close-up of those blood droplets?
It is.
3, quadruple F.
Yep, coagulated blood.
3, quadruple G. Close-up of that. All right. 3, quadruple H. Can you explain what we're looking at now?
What we're looking at here is blood that was, you can see blood spatter throughout the wall in different areas and direction. But this one is going down. Yes, that's right where your cursor is. And the victim had long braids, and it collected the blood from the kitchen area, and the blood was transferred to that wall, and there was so much of it that it dripped down in that spot. So.
3, quadruple B.
Right, this one you can see more of the spatter right here on the corner, and then of course through the grating of the ventilation system, and then here's our blood droplet there, that transfer.
I'm sorry. I got my numbers wrong. This was 3, quadruple H that we looked at with the number on the blood. What'd you call it?
Transfer?
Transfer on the wall. And then 3, quadruple I is going to be the overall of the grate in the wall.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And you can see that here, the spatter from way up to the top of the photo down to the bottom and across the grate.
Okay. 3, quadruple J.
Yes, that's the spatter.
3, quadruple K.
Yep, scale.
3, quadruple L. Are you kind of taking closer up photos as you go down the wall?
I am.
Okay. 3, quadruple M. 3, quadruple N. 3, quadruple O. Looking at the grate now.
Yes, ma'am.
C.
It is. It's a return.
3, quadruple P. 3, quadruple Q. 3, quadruple R. And 3, quadruple S. Going back to the wall with the transfer, 3, quadruple T. Is that going to be a close-up of that splatter that you were talking about?
Yes, the blood spatter, you can see it here. We put a scale on it, and you can see directionality and other spatter in this area.
What do you mean by directionality?
It's showing the direction that the blood's going as it was transferred. So you could tell that the victim moved from the kitchen area and went through the dining room down the hallway, and it's showing that direction. It was at a pace enough to leave that directionality on the walls.
That was 3, quadruple U, going to 3, quadruple V, 3, quadruple W.
And
Same thing going down the wall now by that transfer.
it is, and yeah, there's just more transfer, and you can see the direction, and this is the long one that we looked at before in the hallway.
3, quadruple X.
Yep.
And 3, quadruple Y.
This one.
And ceiling.
Right, this one we talked about earlier. So your dining room and kitchen are on this side. Once you move into the living room area, you could see all the blood that's on the ceiling.
Three, quadruple Z.
Again, looking at that wall and hallway, with the blood coming down, droplets of blood that's coagulated here on the bottom of the picture. And then there's a bathroom, a bedroom, and then a spare bedroom.
I'm just going to call this it's our set of the 5th alphabet. So
Okay.
5 A's.
Yeah, this is a picture of that is located on the opposite wall from the front door. So if we turned around, the front door would be right in front of us.
Was this what we were looking at before, where there was that blood transfer dripping down to the floor?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. 3-5Bs.
Yeah, you can see some transfer blood on the wall. There's some on the floor.
The vase.
Above the vase, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry, did you say on the floor as well?
Yes.
Like where my cursor is?
Yes.
And where are we directionally from the wall that we were just at?
From the wall we were just at, we're moving towards the front door. The front door is going to be located on our right.
Okay. 3-5Cs.
More with the same blood here. Now the scale, and in that last photo there was a charging cable.
Okay, right here where my cursor is?
Yes.
All right, what type of charger was that?
Android charger.
Any phone attached to it?
No phones.
So going to 3-5Es, that again just the blood on that wall.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, 3-5Fs.
Now we're moving to the front door. Victim's going to be located on our right.
And 3-5Gs.
Yeah, this is showing the front door. And what I did here is just photographed it from this distance to show that there was no damage to the door for any kind of burglary or anything like that. And then we've got our blood spatter and the drips coming down. And then the side of the couch also has smear marks of blood.
Okay. Was this door closed?
Yes, just as you see it there.
3-5Hs.
Now you can see the smear mark here on the wall, and then again, same ones we saw.
3-5Is.
Those are the smear marks. We looked for, I looked for any kind of latent prints in the smear marks, but they were just smears, so I wasn't able to get any fingerprints.
3-5Js.
Right.
It's a better example of that.
It is, and you can see there's no peaks, valleys, anything that would give you a fingerprint.
Okay. Another video in 3-5Ks.
Okay.
So was there more coagulated blood kind of around the corner?
There was. Yeah, you can see it there at the bottom.
Okay. Going to 3-5Ls. Is this how you found the victim?
Yes, ma'am, just like that.
Were you able to determine if she had any injuries or where they were?
We did see the injuries. It looked like gunshot wounds to the shoulder, but without manipulating the body at this point, we just photographed, or I did.
3-5Ms.
Yep.
3-5Ns.
Yep. Tattoos and blood.
Okay. Was this an actual gunshot wound or an injury, or just it was something else?
That was just a photograph of the shoulder.
3-5Os.
Yep, just moving around the body.
3-5Ps. And 3-5Qs.
Right. Took this just to show where the body, the front of her body was in relation to how the face was.
An amount of blood underneath her.
Yes.
3-5Rs.
This is going to be the victim's left shoulder, and then you can see the gunshot wounds to her shoulder.
Is that about where my cursor?
Yes.
Is it dried blood?
It is dry.
3-5S.
Yep. Showing the gunshot wound here on her shoulder and her long braids.
What about the couch?
Yeah, you could see It's difficult to see, but you can see the blood smear and droplets on the couch as well on the backside.
Okay, going to 35T.
Again, the left shoulder with the gunshot wounds.
35U.
And more blood spatter.
Okay, and is this going to be on the wall behind her?
Yes.
35V.
Yep, right.
Door are we looking at here?
We're looking at the front door, so it'd be left of the front door. So the victim's body is on the right-hand side.
35Ws.
Yes, more of the.
Again, kind of down the door frame.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, are we looking at the actual door frame itself in 35X?
The actual door itself in the frame.
Okay. 35Y.
Yep, you can see the blood coming down and smears.
Okay. What can you tell us about the significance of, I think you mentioned the victim had braids before. Can you see anything about that in this photo?
You can. If you look over to the right, you could see how her braids were for like a rope-like, and that hit the wall. So that's what's giving you that transfer in that shape.
35Z, a little better view.
Again, that's a much better view. Yeah, you could see the long braid, and you can see the braid marks here on the door frame. So that's where the victim, and here.
What about this at the bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah, that just a large amount of blood that went down the wall.
Okay. Three 6A. Oh, let me go back to that. Okay, so did this blood continue all the way down to the ground?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay. What do you do when after you've photographed the area where the victim is? I'm assuming you went and did all photographs everywhere before moving her.
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you go about moving someone?
What we'll do is we'll make sure, in this case, I photographed, and we had someone else, we had actually two people help move the body. She was in rigor mortis at this point, so she's very difficult to move. So, and you'll see in the next photo her position, and that's all we would do with that, move her out. And we're looking for more injuries, and basically to document the body as well.
Okay, and that's 3 6Bs.
Right, and you can see the rigor mortis.
And for the jury that might not know what that means, what does that mean?
Right, so a period after death, depending upon temperature and humidity and everything, the body goes into what they call rigor mortis. Everything gets stiff, so the position that you're in, you will stay until rigor mortis passes.
Okay.
And that could be hours, it could be whole science to that with temperature.
Okay, sure. And as far as the position that she was in, did that indicate to you that she had been passed away for some period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Were you able to, did you manipulate her hair so that you could see if she was injured in her face?
No, we did not. Well, we moved her face a little bit, but we did not lift her hair. We did not, just like that. Did not do a lot of manipulation on the body because we had the autopsy coming up.
And that's 3 6Ds. Did you find any injuries to her face at this point in time?
No, just the bruising and you can see a gunshot wound on her face, and then blood. Is
that about where my cursor is for a gunshot wound on her face?
It is.
Okay.
And that's the shot that put the bone and teeth into the kitchen area, dining room.
3 6E.
It's the victim's left shoulder, and again the gunshot wound. And you can see now the gunshot to her face.
Is that where my cursor is?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
36Fs. Is that a closer up?
Yes, and you could see some stippling where against the face where the gun was pressed up pretty close, leaving the gunpowder to leave the residue.
36Gs. Is this after the victim's been removed?
It is, and it's just to show where she was and where the blood was based on where the body was located and positioned.
And is that where, I guess, she was over this, where this blood was?
Right, her face is over here, head up in this area.
Right. Were you able to tell, where that blood came from as far as the position she was in?
Looked like her face, mouth, a lot from her hair as well, because she carried a lot of hair or blood from the kitchen in her hair.
Did you later attend the autopsy?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Were you present when it was discovered she had an additional gunshot wound other than the 2 on her shoulder and the 1 on her?
Yes.
And where was that located?
In her head, in the back of her head.
Okay. All right. 36H. And is that now the front door is?
Right. It's it's now open, and that's how we removed the body from the house.
So you had to physically open this door because it was closed.
That is correct.
Right. Is that? We're back to the front of the house now. Is that her white Mazda?
That is her white Mazda.
36Is.
This is the living room facing the TV.
Okay. There appear to be any kind of struggle around the living room area outside of what we've looked at?
No, ma'am, not at all.
3JJJ. Any of the electronics, the TV, video game systems, anything been taken?
Nothing has been taken. Everything, it was in place. Nothing was disturbed, moved.
36Ks. Is this something you're doing? You're opening a drawer and photographing it?
Right now, I've moved from photographing just everything as it is to opening a drawer and then photographing that. And if I need to go deeper into something like, say, the trash can, then I'll photograph, just like I did the fire, pull something out, photograph, have someone pull something out, photograph more, just so we don't miss anything.
Okay. And same with the drawer on the right?
Correct.
And that's 36Ls and nothing out of place or appearing to have been taken?
Right.
36Ms?
This is shooting towards the couch, of course, and I try and get underneath to show, that there's nothing underneath the couches.
Okay. Was there?
There's nothing.
Did you find any shell casings?
No.
All right. What's a shell casing?
Shell casing is the casing left behind after the projectile leaves. So in a semi-automatic weapon, it would be discharged from the gun, and then the next round would enter the chamber. In a revolver, they would stay after they're fired.
Okay. At this point in time, were you aware of what caliber of a weapon you were looking for?
No, not at all.
All right. And on that topic, did you find any projectile strikes or holes in the wall, anything like that?
No.
So 36Ns, we're back to the kitchen. We're looking at the drawers that were opened originally, that were already open when you got there.
And then I photographed them, yes.
Okay. All right, and this is 360. Are these going to be the 2 drawers that were open on the island?
Yes, ma'am.
36P, the contents of that drawer appear it had been rifled through or taken, anything?
No, not to me.
That's 36Q. 36R, another drawer that was opened by the fridge. 36S, where are we now?
Now we're in the master bedroom.
Okay. Is this how you found it when you arrived?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me about these open drawers.
That was it. I just photographed the closet, of course, and the bedroom, and this is how it was found. These 3 drawers are just opened a little bit. Didn't.
This is 36Ts.
This is the closet in the master bedroom.
All right. Did you photograph the drawers that were open?
Yes.
All right. And that's 36U. Anything appeared to have been taken, or like, you know, somebody was going through it and tossing stuff out?
No, they were just left open.
36W. Is that the drawer on the bottom?
It is.
And what was in those drawers? Just clothing?
Clothing.
Same with the filing cabinet. Open, but did it appear anything had been rifled through?
No, it was just open.
Okay. No phones in this bedroom either?
No phones.
36W. What room are we in now?
Now we're in a female's room, like young adult.
This is 36X. Any drawers here open or?
No, there's nothing disturbed.
36Y. All right, and now going to 36Z. What room are we in?
This is going to be the bedroom at the end of the hallway. We saw the blood spatter and leading up to the front door, so it's at the very end of that hallway.
36Z2. 36Z3. Kind of like using it for storage and guest bedroom.
That's what it looks like.
36Z4. Anything out of place or rifled through?
Not that I could tell.
Did you also go through each of the bathrooms?
Yes.
All right. Anything out of place there?
No.
Based on your overall view, were there any signs of forced entry?
There were no signs of forced entry.
Okay. And did you actually go underneath the house too?
Yes, ma'am. There's a crawl space, and there is.
Anything of value there?
No, I photographed and videoed underneath the house as well. There's a black plastic layer. I guess it's some sort of material to keep insects down or whatever, humidity, whatever. And there was dust on that, and there was some cobwebs going across. So there's no one crawled through there. Nothing was left in there I could find.
All right. This is going to be a good stopping point for lunch, Judge.
Okay. So at this time, we'll do an hour, 20 minutes. We'll come back at 2 o'clock. So at that time, we'll get going again. I just ask you in the meantime not to discuss your testimony or any of the testimony that's been given, or any thoughts you might have in the case. Remember, we're trying to get through all the evidence, the argument of the attorneys, and my instructions on the law before you make any decisions on this case. But other than that, you're free to go back to personal affairs, and we'll see you back at 2 o'clock.